Daniel Fabode, a top classic IFBB pro, Olympian, top 3 at Detroit Pro, and a highly accomplished coach.
Olympia qualification happened for me in 2023. I wanted it, but I wasn't ready for it.
Part of the hardest part is the endurance of dieting. It's crazy to think that now we finally have a drug that almost deletes that.
Yes.
And I think that's the part where people are feeling a little weird about it.
Let's be real, right? Like before steroids came into play for bodybuilding, the dilemma with natty athletes is, what if this guy took these drugs, what would he look like? Same thing with GLP-1. What if this guy could actually diet harder and come in condition? So it's just another enhancement. This was my first prep that I never used Trent, and I was the leanest I've ever been. If you're not lean enough, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. It's an anabolic. You're going to lose body fat, you're going to gain muscle. But if you're overusing it and at a point where you're not lean enough, it's not going to do its job. It's just going to... I didn't know that it was happening to me until like one day I was like, am I blowing this out of proportion? Okay, I'm dealing with anxious or anxiety issues due to the PEDs. I got extremely fat as a kid, and then I really dieted really freaking hard a year for my first show coming back into bodybuilding.
Do you remember how much weight you had to lose?
Yeah, bro, I was like 280 and I stepped on stage at like 205. Yeah, it was like a 35-week prep.
Probably out of the top 3 of you guys, you, Wesley, and Grego, you and Wesley were probably the ones that judges would consider had the greater imbalance.
But that being said, when I look at the pictures, when we assessed where we're at, so basically having like 5 or 10 IU of Lantus in the morning, kind of like increasing that baseline insulin level, I think that's beneficial there. But the way that I hear it being used with like, so the doctor was like, dude, I don't even know how you're standing up right now. I'm like...
Before starting this podcast, I just wanted to say that ideating steroids for a full show is not widely accepted because it discounts the real work, which is the backbone of this sport. And unfortunately spreads that an unsafe chemical solution is all you need for results. Both of these are antithetical to society's understanding of the sport. And while there will always be some that claim that PEDs are all you need, I would like to deliver an honest message of what is required for achieving top performance, as well as the dangers associated with this route. I received this comment from a user named Nightscarens. But just as a rock climber, the athletes undergoing this path in the sport are willing to put their life on the line for their passion. Just the danger between the two sports is different. Luckily, we do have safety nets in the sport, such as organ imaging and regular blood work. But that doesn't change the high risk one must accept in taking on this competitive lifestyle.
Whole thing like that.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And then you're like, oh, well.
I've totally done that before. Like Fouad literally like during Sam Sulek's Fouad's podcast with Sam Sulek, they had no audio recording.
Didn't he not press record with Jay Cutler for like 50 minutes too?
Yeah. That was awesome.
It's crazy how you know how to operate all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm like a DJ, right?
I see that.
Maybe I should just change professions at this point. These Asian genetics do not want to hold muscle mass. I think they want to.
I think you're pretty big, bro. I think you got good genetics.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Especially coming from you. I don't know if I told you this when we first met too, but I thought your style was like the sickest shit ever.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought the same about you. I was like, I don't see many people that have a similar kind of like style in like bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Most people are like clean cut, but I like tats and piercings and stuff.
No, for real, same.
You know,
same. Makes me look a little extra progressive, even though I'm not. So fantastic.
I'd say fashionable, stylish.
It's a better term,
right?
What was your like inspo for a lot of the tattoos, if you don't mind me asking? You don't have to go through all of them, but I noticed I recognize some of the style,
so
especially on the neck.
Right. I'm Greek, so I'm half Greek, half Nigerian. I grew up in Greece, and in Greece, this represents. This is a mander, so it represents eternal life.
Okay.
And for me, it was kind of like when I found my wife and like my passion in life, I thought, you know, that's eternal life. You feel like you live forever when you're happy, you know? So it was kind of like the theme behind the sides of the head and the neck. Cause I feel like I couldn't be more fulfilled, right? The dreams that I had was just to become an IFBB pro and kind of like be able to be in the fitness industry. But me being able to be a coach and IFBB pro and an Olympian, that's finding my wife. It was like surpassing any dream I had in life, which made me feel like I was like living an eternal life. So kind of like that was the theme behind these kind of like designs. And the rest of it is just random. This is our brand, our gym brand, Fabode Fitness. This is more dedicated to like God, and like this is more dedicated to my wife. My wife's portrait, one flesh representing like,
oh, that's awesome, bro.
You know, unity. Ooh, just break this.
That's fucking sick.
So yeah. Yours are pretty freaking cool, man.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate
and that's
it.
the same, but I know probably get that question a million times.
Every now and then, yeah. How long have you and your wife been together?
We got married in 2019 to 2025, so about 6 years. In November, 6 years. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
It was fast, man. I was working construction at the time, and we kind of met at the gym, and within 3 months of knowing her, I think I proposed to her.
Damn.
Yeah, I was broke. I was a brokey. Like, I had no money. I was working construction, and I saved up, like, I remember how much, like $5,000 to like buy her a ring. That's why I waited 3 months, because I didn't have money for it, and I married her. So yeah,
wow,
it was fast.
I'm taking notes. So how are you feeling 5 weeks out of a Optimum Classic, right?
Yeah.
In Louisiana?
Shreveport, Louisiana. So we already did Detroit Pro. We did Tri-City State. And honestly, dude, how we've set everything up, I just execute. So it doesn't feel like I'm on prep. It just feels like I'm doing what's on the plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think we kind of talked about it as well. Utilizing GLP-1s has helped a lot to kind of not be as food focused. So when you don't get hunger signaling, or
sorry guys, I'm so sorry.
When you don't get hunger signaling and like don't feel as much food focused, it doesn't feel like you're in prep. It just feels like you're just checking off boxes. So kind of like, I feel good. That's, you know.
Yeah.
Feel good.
Interesting.
gives you thoughts about your prep.
No, for real. Well, I mean, I had a big discussion with Eric Janicki actually on a podcast. We were also discussing GLP-1s, and I've always had like a controversial take on it. Okay, because I mean, well, there is a controversial take on it.
Yes, period. Absolutely.
Right. There's so many different takes actually. One of them is you should save it for the people that need it, the people that are obese that have metabolic distress. But then again, at the same time, how many medications and drugs out there are we all taking that aren't for the required purpose?
Right.
So I should be saying that. Well, I wouldn't be one that would be saying that, because then that would just make me a hypocrite anyways. Right. But I think the other thing is I've always felt this a little bit in my body. That's a weird term. And I think, I mean, obviously I hear this from other competitors, but it's like I feel like part of the oomph in like bodybuilding and part of the hardest part is the endurance of dieting, right? For sure. Which tears a lot of people apart, of course, especially mentally. So it's like, it's crazy to think that now we finally have a drug that almost deletes that.
Yes.
And I think that's the part where people are feeling a little like weird about it. It's like
I agree. It's nuanced because of the mental aspect of things, but let's be real, right? Like before steroids came into play for bodybuilding, which is probably like when bodybuilding started, but the dilemma with natty athletes is, what if this guy took these drugs? What would he look like? Same thing with GLP-1. What if this guy could actually diet harder and come in condition? There's multiple bodybuilders we see out there that are pros that cannot get peeled. Yeah. What if we were actually able to do that? You know what I mean? So it's just another enhancement. It's just another PED. That's all it is, right? Because they do have a lipolytic effect to them as well, especially things like retatrutide or semaglutide outside of tirzepatide. So why not utilize more enhancements? Because tell you what, if you use the GLP-1, you most likely don't have to use other lipolytics because you're able to diet harder. So now we are reducing the risk for kidney and liver toxicity, you know what I mean? As well as, you know, increasing the capacity of losing body fat without having to utilize other drugs that will potentially cause more issues in the future. Yeah. You know, and you don't have to use it forever. I understand, like, let the people that need it use it, but at the same time, if that's the case, maybe those people shouldn't be eating that much. You know what I mean? We didn't eat that much. We're dieting. So why can't they also go through the same process? I know it sounds selfish, but at the same time, I feel like it's just another thing that we can use to still progress as bodybuilders, but we are stuck to not using it because of the mental aspect of things. The risk is not there, right? Yeah. Unless you have some kind of issue predisposed to having an issue with it, like pancreatitis or something like that. So I don't understand why people are so like apprehensive about it. Initially, I was the same way. I'm like, you're not a real bodybuilder if you want to use GLP-1s. Like, you should just suck it up. But if that's the case, then we wouldn't be taking PEDs, right? We would just rely on food and natural supplements and that's it, but and exercise. But we decided to take the route of PEDs, and that's just another PED that's just not been mainstreamed yet. It will get there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
You know what I mean?
Bro, I'm sure
we'll get there.
And if it's not mainstream, people are probably going to take it and just not talk about it.
Absolutely.
Not speaking from experience or anything. I haven't tried it yet, but I've already talked to
I was going to ask you,
I've already talked to Transcend about potential dosing protocols. And they were like, okay, you qualify. And I'm like, cool. So I don't know if I'm going to take it in the next show or not, but I mean, I can tell you probably if I need it to last 3 weeks, I'm probably going to end up trying it for the last 3 weeks at least. Because the reason I'm saying this, I'm talking about all of these perspectives is because I mean, I'm obviously playing devil's advocate, but my actual, like where I've actually come from in terms of fat loss is I was obese when I was a kid. So I really struggled with losing weight. And obviously, you know that there are genetic markers that make it for some people more difficult for them to lose weight.
Absolutely.
Which for a lot of these people with metabolic disease or just issues in general and are obese, like I understand that they're at a certain point where it's just like there's almost no coming back, or if there is, they have to go through some really traumatic thing that will force. It's like it's a weird. It's like, you know, when when a lot of bodybuilders first start lifting, it's like either suicide or I'm gonna get fucking jacked,
right?
You know,
right? Desperation.
Yeah, it's desperation. So for me, this sounds like the greatest thing that's ever, one of the greatest things that's ever been created, because I fucking can't. I hate dieting.
Yes.
Man. I hate it. In the last few weeks before a show, I will not sleep just because I'm fucking starving. I'll always wake up in the middle of the night and be starving and be like, I will normally like just eat like my first meal of the next day early, like in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., because I literally can't go to sleep.
Dang.
So what about the aspect of slowing digestion? How do you feel like this affects the potential growth of bodybuilders' gut in the future? And especially like, you know, peak week during prep when a lot of these bodybuilders are probably going to carb.
So there's timing and application for it, right? So if you're, say, 10 weeks out and you start having really heavy hunger signaling and cravings, you could utilize around that time and pull it out about a week or two out whenever food starts going up. However, during prep, you're not consuming or over consuming food. So the little portions you're consuming, even though they're slowed down, they're not enough to cause distension or stay around the stomach long enough to where they can actually cause organ growth, because that's the issue we're dealing with. Now, that paired with the fact that you're not abusing things like GH will help you not have issues with your midsection. For me, for example, we used it for this prep, and my vacuum in my midsection was the tightest it's ever been, you know, because I am able to diet harder and eat less food. Although
you don't like require the volume, the extra veggies just to get yourself satiated.
Exactly. So when you're in the off season or in the growth phase, when you're pushing food, you wouldn't be using a GLP-1, right? It only has application for prep whenever you're using it strictly for hunger, not lipolytic effect, not growth. So if you're not using it whenever food volume is high, that means that small amount of volume you're having is passing through you a little slower. So there shouldn't be an issue there with that, at least that I have seen. And I've had, you know, clients as well that I'm using it with, and we have no issues whatsoever. You know, it does slow down gastric emptying. You're going to feel fuller faster, which is also going to cause you to eat less. You know what I mean? As long as you're not like, that's the problem we're having with, keep on smacking this. That's the problem you're having with people that are obese and use it. They use it and then they overeat. And then they have to up the dose and then overeat again until like it's to a point where there's no return from it. And you're kind of like down regulating how it works, because at that point you're so tolerant to it that it doesn't even work for you anymore. So if you use it with the right timing during prep and you're managing your food properly, you're not overeating veggies, you're not overeating any foods, which you won't, because again, your hunger signaling is lower. You most likely will have a better waist than you did prior, because again, you're eating less now.
Less volume, yeah.
Exactly. So I haven't really noticed any issues with that whatsoever. This is, again, the tightest my waist has been. Most of the times I have to control it on stage because, you know, we're in classic.
Yeah. So
a waist plays a big role, even in transitional poses. This time around, my waist was so tight, I didn't even have to really think about it on stage. And back to your point, I was also very obese when I was young. I was like, I've had issues.
I saw your transformation literally today. The video that you posted.
Yeah.
That was crazy, bro.
So that was peak bulk, working with, well, I was self-bulking and I was pushing a lot of drugs back then too. But I never seen the results from that.
Were you holding a bottle in your hand too?
Yeah.
Fire.
But yeah, no, I was fat as a kid, man. Unfortunately. And I had like the boobs and everything. I even had gyno from how fat I was. And then it also got worse because of drug usage. But no, I think for someone that has had food struggles before, and I've had a food eating disorder as well, you know what I mean? From the first preps I've had, I had a lot of food struggles. Like if there was something that I could say in life gave me issues or gave me challenges, is my food, the food issues that I've had. You know what I mean? Because I'm a type of person that I can just eat even if I'm full. I can just keep eating. Yeah. You know, so I don't know if that signal in my brain is just not working. Like I'll be walking around with a break in my belly. I'm like, I could go for a burger. You know what I mean? So for me, it has been a game changer for sure. And I use it for my wife as well. And she's had great progress with it.
Right.
The problem with it is the dosing, because a lot of people think, oh, you have to start at 5 milligrams. You have to start at this point.
Yeah.
Dude, I used 1 milligram a week when I started. Great. I've upped it to 2. That's it. And I also pull it out 2 weeks out of the show. So you're only using it. The longest I used it was 7 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
That was it. So
I know there's a lot. I mean, there's not a lot, but I know there's some in the audience and a lot of people just in general in the world, in the industry of bodybuilding that do not believe in microdosing anything. They're just like bigger the better. But I've just seen so many benefits to microdosing drugs, even such as like when I was on my podcast with Dr. Dean, he was stating him and Vigorous Steve calculated what the most optimal trend dose would be, and they came to like 25 milligrams.
That's
dude. It's crazy, bro. It's a tenth of what. That's a smaller than a tenth of what most people are taking for prep. So, and I can also understand how that could be more beneficial, because you don't want, part of the benefit to taking tren in the first place is decreasing your cortisol. So if you're going to increase the tren usage and you're someone that is more susceptible to the mental side effects of tren, that's just going to increase your cortisol for sure.
That's it.
And then add on top the fact that you're also going to have less sleep, or you're not sleeping as well. That's also going to increase your cortisol. So it's just going to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
But I hate to say it, but Eric said the same thing. Yeah. He said his waist was tighter too. And it blows my mind.
It is what it is. As for the microdosing, I agree with you. It keeps your levels more stable as well. I dose all my stuff on a daily basis, except the GLP-1, just because I'm kind of lazy. So I just do it once a week. But you could microdose that as well. I have a client that does that as well and works great for him.
Right.
Yeah, it's very effective. And tren, that's a good point. This was my first prep that I never used tren, and I was the leanest I've ever been. Because of that, what you just mentioned, the mental side effect of things with trenbolone. Plus, it does have an affinity to bind the progesterone receptor and therefore cause like thickening of the skin. So if you're not lean enough, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. It's an anabolic. You're going to lose body fat. You're going to gain muscle. But if you're overusing it and at a point where you're not lean enough, it's not going to do its job. It's just going to basically make you more anabolic, but that's it, Yeah.
And
it's hypertoxic. So
yeah. Eric also explained that he explained some of this stuff off camera that I don't know if I'm allowed to really say in detail on the podcast, but he explained some other reasons why the GLP-1 was so beneficial for him. And it has to do with his family life and having kids. And I think the prep for him has just been, honestly, in the past, so detrimental for his family life. Yeah. And with his, I don't think details are really needed. I think people really understand. It's just, he's got basically two babies, So he would talk about how like, it's almost like, he has this massive goal of getting his pro card in open bodybuilding, but in just pursuing it, some of the time he's not even there.
No.
And so taking this has completely eliminated that from his life, and his family life is all good while he's on prep. It's like,
it doesn't feel
even when like he talked about it on camera in the same energy, but like bro is ecstatic about it, bro. Bro fucking loves it so much.
I would love for you to try it whenever you get closer, man, because it's going to be life-changing when you are on prep and you don't, because it shuts down ghrelin as well, right? Like you don't get the signal, you don't get the craving. Let's say there's a pizza on this table right now and you're 3 weeks out and you're starving. So your calories are 1,500 calories. Calories are 90 minutes, right? You're not going to think, I want a slice of the pizza. What you're focusing on, I got a show to freaking win.
Yeah.
Your mindset completely shifts.
Here, hold on. let's increase. Let's make the mic a little higher. But yeah.
Is that better? That should be good.
Yeah. How does that feel for you?
I'm fine. Yeah. I'm good with it. Yeah.
All right. That's perfect. Okay. Yeah. Ghrelin, pizza.
Yeah.
Focus.
So like if you're able, and that's the thing, man, that's what helped me push through those final stages. Initially, we're supposed to compete at the Indy Super Show, which is in 10 weeks, 11 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
But I progressed so fast because I was not so food focused. Within 6 to 7 weeks after my gyno surgery, I was ready to step on stage. And that's why we did the Detroit. So that was literally like a 6 to 7 week prep.
Damn, really?
That was
and
it.
You got third, bro.
That was it.
Right after the Wesley.
Because I was looking at the...
That's crazy.
I was looking at the at my drug protocol today because I know we had this going on. So I wanted to see what I pushed and for how long I pushed it. And I was like, we were still using a moderate amount, like a baseline chemical dose during my recovery from gyno. But it took me like 6 to 8 weeks to get fully peeled for Detroit. And we really pushed maybe 1 or 2 weeks prior to the show. Plus with the GLP-1, because you're not eating as much, you can stay so on track with your meals. You don't have to do as much cardio. So you're not showing up with a tired, as much of a tired physique as you would do whenever you have 90 minutes of cardio a day for 6-7 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
You know, so I would love for you to try and see how you feel about it. Because I know you mentioned that he's ecstatic, but for a guy like him, where distraction is unavoidable, right? Like he has 2 kids, like you said, he probably has a bunch of food in the house that he cannot eat all prep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be very challenging. For me, I own a gym. I live with my wife and my nephew. Both of them are bodybuilders. So even if you wanted to eat something, there's nothing there to eat. So it's not that much of a challenge if you were to say from looking at things, visuals and smells. But at the same time, again, I had a food eating disorder before. If I wanted to eat something and I have a craving for something, my brain is focused on that. I forget about the show. I forget about cardio, what needs to be done. It's almost like you get into this trance of hyper focusing on food. You know what I mean? And you just want to eat whatever is bad for you. Not even necessarily because of the taste, just because you can't have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a game changer, man. I'm ecstatic, maybe because I'm a prep. He's not showing as much. Yeah. But it has been an absolute game changer on all aspects. And I think where he's going to have the most application is also with recovery phases for individuals that are done with their show, because that's when most people binge. Show's over, I'm going to go ahead and eat everything.
Yeah, I've heard most of the benefits from recovery phases at first, but now that I've talked to you and Eric, I'm seeing how much of a benefit it is for your show.
Absolutely.
Too. So, which I hate to say because I hate to condone drug use, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, someone was telling me that Kyle Wilkes was against it. I think one of our friends, that's one of his clients. But I think I was recently having like some off-camera discussion with him and Mike, from the Trent twins, and we were just talking about the GLP-1s and stuff. And I don't know, Kyle sounds like he might be a little bit more on the border now. Yeah. Considering like the benefit to insulin sensitivity as well. So I just think the most important thing though, when it comes to drugs like this, is like you said earlier, being particular about the dosing. Absolutely. Especially as you're coming down closer to show day. You're coming across peak week. Like, of course, you don't want to like completely come off, because I've heard there is like a hunger rebound for sure if you do 100%. Come off. But like titrating down the dose to a place where it's like you can consume these foods and it doesn't affect your digestion. Yes. With, I don't know, some of these guys are eating like 1,000 grams of carbs, right? Right. Then I think that's probably, if you can do that all, exactly as you need to for your personal body, then I feel like that would be only beneficial to you. But the problem is there's a lot of people that can't and don't with dosing, right? Yeah. I think a lot of the reason why I have this podcast is to hone in on the truth with bodybuilding. And yeah, some people do have to take large amounts of gear for sure. But I mean, we've seen like, you with your training use, and I've noticed this with my own physique. Like, I'm not trying to say this so people fucking take less gear and don't win. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to be in this. I have kids listening to this podcast that are like 18 years old that haven't jumped on gear yet. I'm going to be retired by the time they're like becoming successful in bodybuilding. I don't give a fuck if they're doing well. I want them to do well. Then they'll be like, yeah, I learned this from Now's podcast. Of course I fucking want them to do well. So like, I'm just saying, like, if you would titrate up certain compounds way too high before your show, at least for some of us, like
Yeah.
me, maybe for you. I notice I get fuller, but in trade for getting fuller, sometimes when you start pushing the boundary, you also gain a little bit of extra water retention,
Yes.
or the detail starts going away.
Fading, yeah.
It's kind of like a balloon, honestly. Like, well, I don't think that's really the best comparison, but yeah, I just noticed there's like this balance. It's kind of the same thing with carbohydrates. They said like, you try to get as full and as tight as possible. The way the Stefan Kinsel defines it is the pressure, right? Of like the muscle pushing against your skin. But then after a certain point, like you fill up those
crevices.
You fill up your muscles with glycogen, and you start getting a little watery if you continue to pound those carbohydrates. So I think it's the same with compounds, with a lot of the compounds.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Now, how I personally used the GLP-1 peak week, because I was using such a low dose and it was effective, the 1 milligram a week, I was able to, because that was the starting dose. So there was nothing else to titrate downwards from that. Like I'd have to take so little, like it would be very hard to even pin it. So I just completely took it out, like I'd say like 10 days out, because you only take one shot a week. So after 7 days, it's kind of out of the system in a sense, like the gastric emptying, at least. For me, that's when I noticed it. And honestly, dude, because after that, at that point, when you step on stage, especially as a pro, you place third at the Detroit, you place second at the Tri-City, whatever, you have so much adrenaline and hype going mentally. I didn't have to go back to use it again because my food focus was completely gone.
Oh, nice.
And now I'm focusing for the optimum because I'm so close, I can qualify, right? So it's hard for me to want to deviate. Now, if I start seeing that I'm getting triggered again, I can easily reintroduce it at 1 milligram, which worked in the past. And you just have to be very sensible, man. And not everybody's going to be the same. Some individuals will need more. Some individuals will need less. And you'll have to titrate some people off. But one thing I'll say about it is definitely not staying on it forever, because during growth phases, it'll definitely be a hindrance. If you cannot eat as much, you cannot train as hard, you cannot recover as good, it's a diminishing return right there. So, and potentially, we don't know with these drugs, if you use it for 4 or 5 years, what the side effects would be. It's a new drug, especially for bodybuilders. We know what happens with people that are overweight and stuff like that and use it. But with bodybuilders, we don't know. So like, you'd rather just cycle on and off just like you would, whenever you're using PEDs or androgens, and be safe that way. Yeah, no, I agree on every other point you mentioned, man. I know, right?
Lexi's farting in the background.
That's hilarious. Yeah, we pulled up and they were doing work over there. So
the GLP-1s always just have me in a place where I'm just
thinking.
Yeah, all the time. I'm just I do want to try it. I'm just like, wow, it's just kind of crazy because that was the hardest thing in bodybuilding for me, is the dieting. There was nothing in my life that was ever harder than dieting. To the point where, like, when I was a teenager, and I started off at, I had literally the worst eating habits. I've opened up about it before. I don't want to keep talking about it too much, but obviously it was just embarrassing, how bad my eating habits were and how unhealthy I just coped with all of it. So, I mean, the fact that this exists is just like life-changing for me. Yeah. It feels life-changing. So I don't know. I just don't want to rely on it too much. I don't want to rely on any drug too much, but at the same time, I'm sure I'll find my balance.
It is an unnatural state, right? Like, we're talking about starving yourself for a show. So you won't be using that under normal circumstances, right? That's the only time you'd be, I guess, triggered like you were back then, right? When you had, because I had very toxic relationship with food, or a very toxic relationship with food. And I've talked about it before on some degree. And I had like a lot of people message me that are bodybuilders and are like, dude, I stopped competing because of that reason. Like I was eating to the point where I had to throw up or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And so if I can help some people like with this information, because tell you what, being bulimic is way worse in combination with taking PEDs than taking a GLP-1, because bulimia is something that can lead to death, potentially, because it completely destroys your esophagus and your path to how you digest food, which can then cause you to bleed into your, I don't remember if it was lungs or stomach, and potentially die, right? So you'd rather just, if you have a person that's like that, and you're considering a GLP-1, that will help you prevent a lot of that stuff, and mentally at that point, you're not okay either, right?
Mhm.
Like whenever you go to food for comfort all the time. So, and that's the point I was at. I was having a really bad relationship with food. It was like very hard to even talk to people about it because I was embarrassed about it,
Mhm.
you know? And this prep, I'm not saying the GLP-1 was the only thing that did the work. We took like 18 months of just mental work and like making sure I have a good relationship with food, understanding food in general,
Yeah.
not putting a label of good, bad food, but
Mhm.
what foods we need, how we can utilize those foods. Why are we eating? Is this a craving or is this hunger?
Mhm.
And then towards the final stages of prep, like I said, 6 to 7 weeks, I mean, if I'm starting to get to that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of getting triggered and I might, you know, be falling back into the same cycle if I don't do something about it. Then I utilized it. But I definitely think if you were anywhere near the point where I was mentally at that point, it's safer to kind of prevent yourself from falling into the same cycle than, you know, going to something that could potentially trigger that, at least for me was.
Do you happen to ever have any issues eating during your gaining phase?
You know, that's the funny thing. So I'll eat until I'm super full, but
Yeah.
like the calories are still not enough to where like my goal is for the day.
Damn.
But the problem is during prep is the other way around. Whenever I get the hunger, that's when I'm wanting to binge, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the gaining phase, man, the heaviest I went with calories was 3,300. It's not much. Yeah, 3,300.
What?
And from the Olympia showing until my showing at Detroit, which the Olympia, I'd gone down up to probably 212. And I stepped on stage. It was like 270. It was sloppy. It was not where I needed to be.
Mhm.
But I should have probably been like 211, 212 on stage.
Mhm.
The lowest I got was 212 during the prep. I stepped on stage at Detroit at 222. I was 219 for my weigh-ins.
Mhm.
But on stage, I was 222. That's 10 pounds of tissue stage. And I was way leaner than I was at Olympia within 18 months. And during those 18 months, we had to move our gym from Stanford to Louisville, which is freaking 2 hours. So me, my nephew, and my wife,
Yeah.
we literally handheld all the equipment into a Penske truck.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
yeah,
man.
bro. It was like 5 days
Holy.
of brutality. It was awful. My joints hurt so bad. So I didn't train during that time because obviously
Yeah.
moving equipment freaking wrecks you. And I also had gyno surgery a couple months after that.
Mhm.
So my growth phase was not very productive. Like maybe 10 months out of that,
Mhm.
we got where we really honed into growing. And with, you know, just making sure that I'm utilizing the right food and also taking the right approach, you know, I was way, way bigger at Detroit than I was at the Olympia.
Mhm.
So GLP-1 was a big factor for me being conditioned during that time. You know?
Okay. 3,300 calories.
Yeah, bro. I didn't get past that.
What?
Yeah, bro.
How low do you go during prep?
17, 16. I died like a bikini girl.
What?
Yeah.
Bro, you and I have the exact same calories, except I at least get to go up to like 37, 3,800.
Yeah. I mean, I bet whenever like I had like a sushi meal, because we do a free meal
Yeah.
here and there, I usually just stay on my meal plan completely.
Mhm.
But sometimes, you know, I work with a coach who'll be like, hey, go have your free meal with your wife. And yeah, bro, it's pretty freaking low.
What? How tall are you?
5'10", 5'10" and a quarter.
Dude, that is insane.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone that has
Yeah.
a crazier low metabolic rate for their height and weight than me. You're the
That's-
first person I've ever met.
That has been a discussion
Crazy.
with my coach. And I think, man, is the damage that I did whenever I was going through my younger years as a kid with the, you know, overeating and potentially, you know, doing things that I was not supposed to with food,
Yeah.
obviously. I think that's what slowed it down because it's not like I feel full. I don't feel like low energy or it doesn't affect me in a certain way. A
Mhm.
person that eats 5,000 calories and me eating 33, I would probably feel the same way how they feel.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I diet on very low calories, and I also my gear usage is also pretty low compared to the average person. I'm not saying that everybody requires that. Like I have clients myself that take more than I advise take more than I do. I don't advise drug usage, but you know,
Yeah.
take more than I do, and I just require less. I don't know. I guess my genetics are a little weird, right? I can't eat much, but I also grow easier.
I mean, it sounds like from Dr. Dean's definition,
Mhm.
you'd just be a slow metabolizer.
Yeah.
Right. So the drug goes in your system and it stays in for longer. So then you feel more of the effects
Mm-hmm.
of that drug. And I mean, obviously food too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think it's always I think the genetics for food and gear, I mean, they're not always correlated. Like if you're slow metabolizer for one, doesn't mean you're slow for the other. But I mean, that's not uncommon at all, you know? And I think I was that way too. I think I always responded a lot to lower gear use, but I think at this point now I've been titrating up consistently each year to the point where now I think I'm just basically average, I'd say, for a classic physique competitor.
Do you feel like that has yielded a good result though? Like the approach you've taken with titrating upwards?
I mean, last year I gained like 10 to 12 pounds of lean mass.
That's substantial.
I mean, that's as long as I've been bulking for on PEDs. Right. That's the weird thing is like, I think because I started PEDs way earlier than I ever started actually doing a real like bodybuilding growth phase, you know? Right. I was just trying to be shredded on social media. Yeah. So sometimes I wonder, like, did I waste like 3-4 extra years of like PED use on no extra muscle whatsoever?
Potentially, right? But at the same time, how much did that help your social media?
Yeah, exactly. Now I can do this without having to work another job, which is nice. I can just focus on making more and more content. So, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I'd be able to do any of the content if I had another job. Like, I don't know why, but it takes me literally my entire day. So.
Yeah, it's a lot, dude. I mean, just your setup, right? Like it takes a long time to set up, a long time to find the content, to find the subject that you want to talk about, whatever.
Yeah. I think part of the problem though is I think there's some people that like Hussein, you know, so Hussein Farhat, they're really, really good at allocating their positions to people, things that they're not so good at. I'm fucking terrible at it. It took me, like 7 years of social media for me finally to get my own editor for the podcast. I still edit my own YouTube videos, bro. That takes me an entire Thursday and half of like Wednesday.
That's crazy.
So I don't know how long that would be, but it's over 14 hours.
Yeah, dude. That's like half a work week. Because if you think that a work week is 40 hours, you're nearly working 20 of those hours on that video, right? Like, so you're working hard for work week. But I feel like the fact that you're conscious of that will also help you like be better at it eventually. You know what I mean? Because you'll be like, at some point you'll be like, let me find someone that can do that for me. Right. People that are not conscious about it is what probably is holding them back and potentially not, you know, progressing to.
Well, that's the thing that's so hard though. If you're like a creator or you're trying to create content on social media, like it depends on how you grow in the first, it depends on how you like exploded and how you grew in the first place. So like I've had this talk with people like Lex Little where it's like, we just can't have anyone else edit our videos because the way that we want to create our YouTube videos is a certain way where it's like our personality is in our videos and how we edit and what we choose to use as clips. And no matter how long it takes or no matter how long I spend with somebody, it's like, I can't ever get them to learn that exactly, you know, it's just, they'll never know what's inside my head. And normally what ends up happening is I spend almost the same amount of time and like messaging them and saying this timestamp, you know, clip this and teaching them each week, but then still paying them for the total cost of the edit. So
I think you're going to come across someone that's going to be like, okay, this is, he knows, he sees what I'm seeing. He's picking up what I'm putting down, you know what I mean? And he's going to take off from there. Because I feel like a lot of content creators just have that person that does that for them. Like the bigger ones. I was looking at Guzman and like, even Bumstead, right? Like Bumstead's videographer, he found him in the crowd at an expo.
Oh shit.
He was like, hey, can I shoot a video for you? And he shot the video for Chris and Chris liked it. And that's kind of like how they vibed. And like,
that's sick.
You know, because he talks about that story and how he met him. And he's still his main videographer. Now they have like 5 guys. I don't know how many people they have, you know, shooting their videos, but that's still the main guy because he sees the vision that Chris had. You know what I mean? So
Kelvin. That's epic, bro. Yeah, I can only hope, but I'm sure at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
In the meantime, it's nice to have a podcast because all we got to do is switch faces.
Yeah.
So I know we've been talking about GLP-1 a lot and about other subjects, but I kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about your background and how you got into bodybuilding in the first place. Okay. I know there's a lot more that we can talk about, which we totally will, but I kind of want to know myself because I've never even got to ask you about your story or your life. So what's like the first memory that is indicative of your path as a bodybuilder today?
So I'd say me moving here to the US because I'm originally from Greece. I moved here when I was 16. I'm 28 now. So it was more desperation than anything that drove me to bodybuilding, right? Like I was kind of like a fat kid. I got kind of skinny and watching Pumping Iron with Arnold. That's what kind of like triggered the passion.
Yeah.
I found it on YouTube. So I started doing push-ups, crunches when I was like 14, 13, but I was still a chubby kid. So whenever I came here to the US and there was more accessibility to gyms, I was like, oh, this is freaking heaven. So like I started going to the gym. And I was at the time, I believe, working at a car wash that was paying like $5 an hour. So all I would do is I would work. Yeah, it was bad, bro. We got paid through tips, so that was the main thing.
Got a lot of cardio doing it though, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of cardio, and I also didn't have a car, so I would like walk 3 miles there, 3 miles back, and the gym was midway from the house because I moved in with my uncle, which was not much help because I still had to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was just like a place to stay. But the gym was between the house and the car wash. So I would literally stop at the gym on the way back or on the way to the car wash and stay there for like 3 hours. I'd have like my backpack with like all my meals for the day, my clothes if it got cold because it was in Michigan. So sometimes there was snow. And that's kind of like what, after doing it for a year, I was like, wow, my progress as a natural athlete, because I used to be a hardcore natty supporter. I was like, I will never do PEDs. Look at me now. But but that's the initial thing. Like I started seeing my transformation, and I started looking at the guys that were on social media, and I was like, it was 2015, the first year I competed, which was the first year that Classic Physique came out. So I was like, I could probably get to that point if I'm natural and I'm kind of relatively close to how big they are. So I decided to do my first show kind of like self-coached. And after that, dude, I would say 2 things. That triggered my passion for bodybuilding the first time I stepped on stage because I didn't have really anything else, right? I was a broke kid, for me. And at the same time, it triggered my food eating disorder.
Fire.
So that's kind of like how that went. But I'd say it was desperation for life. I didn't have anything else, and I was grasping for something. And bodybuilding was something I was good at, and it kind of like gave me a reason to like keep moving. You know what I mean? So, and it took off from there. I did my first 2 shows, natural, self-coached. I won overall and classic in both of those, so it was clear to me what division I had to stick to. But yeah, that was the initial like jump start, I guess.
What do you feel like is the thing in bodybuilding that gave you the most anxiety?
I would say stepping on stage, and stepping on stage, period. Like just the fact that I could not be ready. Like one dream that I've had repeatedly is me being unshaved and out of shape, about to step on stage. You know what I mean?
You said unshaved for a second.
Unshaved, like with my hair. Because you got to shave for the show, right? So the dream that I have in my head before getting on stage is like, say the 3-4 weeks out, like I'll start having nightmares that I'm like, I haven't shaved or I don't have a tan on, and I'm
just
fat.
super hairy.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. So that's
epic.
The actual stage fright, I guess, man. Now it's not as bad nearly. I don't even get anxiety now. I've done 15 shows,
Yeah.
But when I first started, that's what gave me the most anxiety. And obviously, with the uses of PEDs, small things start seeming a lot bigger. You know what I mean? Just anxiety out of nowhere. It could be just something that is not supposed to be something that triggers anxiety, but it does for me.
What do you feel like is the biggest experience you've had related to that, to the PED
anxiety
that you've had?
I don't know. There's a lot. You know what I mean? But like I said, I got married to my wife early on, right? Like we got married within, I guess, the first 3 months of being together, and I had mostly been alone my whole life. So being with her and like knowing that I have a valuable person in my life, because like I said, like I moved here when I was younger. I didn't really have many people that I cared for or valued me, except like my nephew and my wife now. So my anxiety was that she was going to leave me, right? Like that I was not really that much of a worth it person, to spend time on or to invest on. And the PEDs made it even worse.
Yeah.
You start thinking, dang, is this just short-lived? This is too good to be true. And those thoughts become even more toxic, and you hyper focus on them.
Right. And the worst part is most people, especially in their first few cycles, don't realize that it's happening.
Yeah.
It's the worst part.
I didn't know that it was happening to me until like one day I was like, am I blowing this out of proportion? Like it would be like something small. And I think to myself, this probably was the wrong way to react or the wrong thing to say. I'm like, I should probably, why? And then you eventually realize it at some point. But it might have been like after a year or two of you going through that before you realize that, okay, dang. I'm dealing with anxious or anxiety issues due to the PEDs.
Mhm.
So,
Do you happen to remember what exactly, like specifically, like what kind of compounds might have caused you personally to feel that way? Or yeah,
absolutely. So when I first started working with a coach, leading into my national show, we decided, well, it was advised to me to take NPP and DECA as well as Tren, right? So like those
three?
nandrolones, well, we did
Or-
the NPP DECA to grow, right? And
Yeah.
then switched to Tren to go into the show.
Mhm.
But all three of them are 19 nors, and they're
Yeah.
greatly known to affect the mental state.
Mhm.
So those were the worst. You get a feeling where, sometimes you just sit down and enjoy the view or wherever you're at. You just, right?
Mhm.
You never got that.
Yeah.
You feel like something is off all the time.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting worse if you're not distracted. If you distract yourself, you go to the gym, whatever, you might not feel it as much. But
Right.
you want to, when you're in prep or whenever you're eating a lot of food, you want to sit down sometimes, like on the growth phase or on the prep. You want to sit down sometimes and you want to just relax, allow your mind to kind of turn off. That does not happen.
Mhm.
It could be a bottle that's on the table that's not where it's supposed to be, and you want to move it. Or it could be a bigger thought, something that had bothered you freaking a month ago, and it came back to your head and just starts in at you. It's just like it's almost like a constant tapping on the shoulder.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse, right? Because it's constant. So
this is what I like to talk about a lot. I mean, I think most people, I don't know. I think a lot of people, especially in this audience, have an understanding of this, but I think it tends to be very missed that how we feel, how our hormones are in our body, how the balance is, dictates our thoughts. And people like to say, your mental state also dictates how your body is, how you act in life. Like you can control your world and your life with your mind, which is true to a certain point. But if your hormones are completely out of whatever, or your chemistry is causing, say, like a rise in catecholamines, or a lower amount of serotonin in your system, it's really hard for you to just mentally cause that to be in balance. You know what I mean? You have to really address your health.
Yeah.
And like I have a friend, for example, who I'm trying to figure out a best way to explain this in a very general sense.
Not to be specific.
Yeah, for real. I've had friends in the past that have like used MDMA, for example, and they will end up they don't experience serotonin syndrome, but of course, for days afterwards, when you're taking something like MDMA, you're going to have a lower level of serotonin more often than not. And some people just like casually supplement that with 5-HTP before bed or whatever. But there's people that can also experience things like sleep paralysis from this. And one of the problems, there's a lot of doctors that actually try to address sleep paralysis in their patients by prescribing them SSRIs.
Yes.
Right? Serotonin uptake inhibitors. So if you need an increase in serotonin and you're experiencing this sleep paralysis due to likely a decrease in your serotonin levels, there's a lot of people, I think, who also don't really know how to address these processes in their body without supplementing it with just another drug.
Right.
Like, oh shit, my serotonin's down or something. Like, I want to make myself feel better. So what other like actual prescription drugs can you take to make that feel better? But obviously, well, not obviously, but I would personally recommend anyone listen to some doctors that I've spoken with on my podcast, such as Dr. Dean. Like it's just in situations like this, when, say, for example, you can't sleep because your dopamine, your adrenaline, your noradrenaline is too high, your catecholamines are too high. This causes your brain to race, right? Even if your body is in a chill state. If your serotonin is too low, this can cause a lot of issues with, potentially cause things like sleep paralysis. I'm not completely sure, but I would assume so.
Right.
And I've also heard that some of these things can cause like really bad nightmares as well. So, you want to calm your mind. So methylfolate, vitamin B complex, which is really necessary to help convert L-tryptophan to serotonin. And most people are probably not consuming enough L-tryptophan before bed anyway, so you can supplement with that as well. So you have those 3 different supplements, and that should hopefully help reduce the rising of catecholamines, and then hopefully also increase serotonin.
Right.
So, I mean, hopefully benefit that. And that's what he said is honestly one of the potential ways that you can help combat the anxiety that you may get from EQ, from nandrolone, any of these substances.
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing, honestly, is just reduce your dosage, of course, right? Like if you're feeling this and like you have to take supplementation on a regular daily basis just to combat anxieties that are causing you to have relationship issues or some other type of, lifestyle issues. I mean, at this point, there's a lot of other compounds. So I think this is the best place to maybe switch it up, lower the dose, or just not use that.
Yeah. I don't use any nandrolone anymore or EQ. My main thing is test and primo. And sometimes we throw mast, obviously, for prep, just to crush estrogen a little more. But I haven't had to use anything else, even during my growth phases. But when I did use NPP and DECA, I had those issues. I feel like also just GABA supplements, if you can get actual GABA or Phenibut, Typhon, stuff like that, that could help.
I think the problem with Phenibut, though, is, I mean, I would recommend GABA for sure, but Phenibut, like GHP, I think they can potentially cause issues with your GABA receptors over time. So I know a lot of bodybuilders do like using Phenibut, but I think I would just advise against that one. Personally.
I'm just saying there's options there. You know what I mean? And also, who was it? Vigorous Steve, I believe. They mentioned using GABA and Phenibut interchangeably every other day, right? So GABA one day, Phenibut the next day, so on and so forth, to kind of like avoid that. But obviously over time, you could still cause that to happen if you're continuously using it. But I feel like during a chemical push, I think all those things are essential, because like sleep is the most important thing. Like if that's in check and you can actually go to bed and rest your mind, I feel like even though you're using those compounds, you'll be more, you'll be better when you wake up and deal with your day, or deal with that daily anxiety you get from those drugs. And obviously a combination of that and moderating your dosage. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's the experience I've had with PEDs. I mean, I've pretty much, I think I've used anything that the average bodybuilder has used, and with Primo Mast and Test, I haven't really noticed. I don't know if you have experience with that specifically. I love it. Yeah, right. Like, love Primo. Pretty mellow. Like I don't really get any of I don't even feel like that's the only thing that I don't like. NPP, DECA, Tren. When you use those things, man, you feel like a freaking bull in the gym, right? You feel like a tank. Yeah. But with Primo, sometimes you just don't feel like you're taking anything. You might see the visual changes. Yeah. But for me, I don't really feel. You're just
injecting water sometimes.
Yeah,
you're like, your hair starts getting thinner all of a sudden.
You know what I mean? But you don't get any umph. You don't get any freaking aggression. You don't get any of that. So you probably get the opposite, because it crushes your estrogen. So you probably get lower libido. But other than that, it's very beneficial for, like, I feel like growing and also allowing you to stay more mellow if you wanted to do a more conservative growth push. You know what I mean? So
this was kind of in the Q&A, but when did you first take your first cycle?
I was 22, and I wouldn't say it was a cycle. It was just test 250. Okay. And funny, it's a funny story. I got it from like some bogus guy at the gym, right? And it was bad test.
As everybody does.
Yeah, it was freaking terrible, because I don't even think it was test, because it hurt so bad. Yeah. Like immediately after, my whole leg was hurting, and I had a fever for like 4 days.
Where did you inject it?
My glute.
Your glute?
Yeah, damn. But it was not. I don't know what it was, bro. I don't know. It was. That's what I'm saying. It said test on the bottle, but I'm sure it was fake. And my smart self was like, okay, well, I guess this is what bodybuilders do. So after like a couple of days, I shut the other glute. So now, so both legs were gone, and I was like super. I was having a fever. I was getting sick. I was vomiting. I was like, yeah, dude. I don't know what it was. So after that, after like a month, I just stopped everything. After a month, I got a different source, and I actually got good test. And that was, so 22, that was when I started with test. And then after that, at the age of 25, I did my first like full blown cycle. Right. So then we had,
damn, it took you a minute.
Yeah. Cause I was squeezing a lot of gains out of just the test on itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Were you like titrating it up though during that time?
Yeah. So I think the highest time was like 400. Okay. So then we went.
Did you have to take like AIs?
Yeah. So eventually I had to take AIs. I was also eating bad, so I was kind of like, it was not a very clean, educated bulk. Obviously, it was my first ever freaking cycle.
Yeah.
So
23 years old.
You know what I mean? I'm eating everything, lifting heavy, doing the test, and I'm getting also kind of fat, so I can't tell if it's fat or if I'm actually getting gyno. right? So I'm sure I was developing, because I just had surgery for it this past year. So I'm sure I was developing it during that time. And it kind of surfaced whenever I did compete the first time. Like I was like, okay, it's visible. When I cut, I was like, I definitely have gyno. But then we went with NPP, EQ. I didn't do any orals for a minute. I only did orals for competition, but I did NPP and EQ.
It's better than me.
What did you do?
I did orals for my first cycle. Fucking awesome.
Why do people do that? I guess because they're afraid of the injection.
Because I was dumb.
There you go. Young and
No,
dumb.
I mean, I'm gonna be real. Like I know I joke about it being dumb and shit, but I don't want anyone's feelings to be hurt because,
right.
of course, I did that too. But like the fact of the matter is, I know a lot of the people in the audience understand bodybuilding to a good. You know, you guys have listened to a lot of podcasts. You guys have listened to a lot of information. You guys are smart people. Not that other people aren't, but the fact is that even to this day, there are still so many people out there, so many younger people as well that are out there meeting people that are gaining their trust by the way they talk to them and the way they converse with them. And maybe even over like a course of like a year, 2 years, you know, this guy at the gym who's been always nice to you, he's become like an uncle to you. And then he starts like talking to you about his PD use, and you're like, man, I want to jump a gear. Like I see all these people like Samsung looks like fucking sick. Like I want to jump a gear and shit. And then he like recommend some things to you. And I'm not trying to like put anyone on blast or anything. I really don't want to, because I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about some of these situations, which is the part that's hard. Is like, I want to explain to people that these things really happen with specific stories, but I don't want to ever put anyone on blast. But like, you know, there's been like parents that obviously they don't want their kids to take gear, but there's also been some parents that are just like, you know, like get mad at them for like already starting, but they're like, okay, well, just don't freaking inject then. Just if you're gonna do this, just don't inject or something like that.
Yes.
You know, things like this happen a lot. And I've known kids that are under the age of 19 that have been scammed with their gear use, that are like just taking orals, or that have been scammed with something such as like GH, and it's not real. Just, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And these kids will come to me and ask me for advice, and I'll do everything I can, but it just fucking sucks to see like, dude, they're being manipulated by people that they feel like they have learned to trust, that are actually almost like family to them. And it really sucks, because then they don't really know who to trust. Like, trust this guy that's on social media who I don't even know in person, or trust this guy that I've known that's been like a friend of me for so long. Like, it just sucks. So that's
kind of like how it happened for me. It was a guy at the gym that was kind of like, hey, I got this if you need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was, I hear it all the time, man. And, you know, we own a gym. So like, and I talk about this stuff openly on my socials. So a lot of these kids come to me and ask me about advice, or like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And if you're young and you're seeing gains and you don't need it, just don't do it. You know what I mean? And if you're in your parents' house, probably just wait, wait a little bit. It's not going anywhere. The gym's going to be there. You're going to become an adult and be able to make critical decisions later on when you're more mature and educated.
Right.
You know,
it's just so easier to said than done when you're a young kid.
For sure.
Like, I've heard some really great professors in psychology discuss that, like, you know, 10 years from now, you're going to want completely different things.
Yeah.
It's just how we are as humans. It's natural. Like, what your desires are right now is not your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to all realize that.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, like, when you're young, sometimes, depending on what your situation is, some people just aren't as well off than others.
Yeah.
And sometimes your life just doesn't feel as important, you know? Sometimes it's like, my life may not even ever get better unless I better myself in this place, or unless I get some kind of recognition here, or like, etc. You know, you don't never know what's going on in someone's life. So sometimes for some people, it doesn't even matter if they ruin their life for the rest of their life, but if they can get somewhere great now, where they feel better, where they feel like life is worth living, then they'll do it.
Right.
And that's the problem. So
I was in a similar space when I was younger, like whenever I first competed, because I was like, again, I don't have anything. I was broke. I didn't have anything or anyone that really cared, right? Like, my family was still in Greece. My dad, my mom, the people that I cared really for. So I kind of relate to what you're saying, because I felt like there was nothing to live for. I was like, this is all I'm going to have. This is it. Like, what the heck do I have to lose if I step on stage with a banana hammock? You know?
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't take the route of PEDs at that point, but eventually I did, because that's kind of like subconsciously what kind of drove me there. Thankfully, now I have people around me that I do feel like value me and love me, right? Like my nephew, my wife. So it's a way better mental space now than back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the things that you like now might not be the things that you like later in life. Do you feel like that's true for people that are at the top of sports, like professional athletes? Because you see people like Dorian Yates, Lee Priest, they're still bodybuilders, right? They still talk about working out, taking PEDs, living the lifestyle. Do you feel like when you're so, let's say, immersed into a sport, because it becomes like obsessive, right? It becomes an obsession. And you see a lot of athletes never get out of the sport. They become commentators. They become something involved in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like for those people it's different? Like, do you feel like it becomes their identity?
I think there's always a variance, but I think no matter what, as you grow older, your desires change based off of your age, you know,
Mhm.
based off the things that are required for you at the time,
Yeah.
at this time in your life. And I think some of the people that you actually even suggested
Mhm.
or you use as examples are honestly great examples of my point. Like Dorian
Mhm.
Yates, bro, like how small is he now?
That's true.
He
That's
focuses all on his like, is it that he focuses on cardiovascular health a lot?
Yeah, I
now?
think he was doing some yoga stuff when I saw
Yeah,
him.
bro. He's so different, man. He's like this
That's
wise,
true.
old, you know, ripped, skinnier man.
Yeah.
It's just like, of course they'll love bodybuilding. They have this entire background on it, you know,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
they're not bodybuilding now, you
Yeah.
know. Even look at Fuad's podcast, for example. Fuad, Ian, like, yeah, they love bodybuilding, but Ian will literally say like, yeah, it's his passion now, but it's not what gets him up in the morning like it used to.
Yeah.
Like now he wants to, I don't remember what he's doing. Freaking running,
What is he doing?
sprinting.
He's sprinting.
Running?
It's a big man to sprint.
He's running. I know, bro. He was a runner in like high school or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of cool examples. You see Greg Doucette too,
Right.
mad cycler.
Cycling, yeah.
Still cycles to
He's
this day,
still-
but it's a
He's
little
in
different.
great shape, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to look like that after I retire bodybuilding.
No, yeah, for
You
real,
know? I
right?
feel like I'm just gonna get fat.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna eat everything.
right. I wonder if he's probably still on TRT, right? Does he talk about that openly?
Probably. I'm
He's
not
gotta be.
sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I'd assume so.
He
Right?
did say TRT is the new fake natty. So
Right. I mean, technically it is. Like I get those I get those kids that are talking about TRT plus and it's like 500 milligrams of test. I'm like, bro, you are on a full blown blast, bro. You're using gear.
yeah.
No, I'm still light. I'm just doing
most
TRT.
men's physique competitors regular cycle
Yeah, right.
or regular test base, I guess.
I would be interested to see what a men's physique cycle looks like the pros that are in the roster right now for like
yeah.
top 5 at Olympia. Because I feel like everybody's drug usage is very similar.
Everyone's
Yeah.
is very similar. Okay, so it changed. There's always going to be people that
Mhm.
are. There's always going to be variants, no matter what.
For
There's
sure.
going to be a lot of variants actually. But when there was someone who commented on Darren Farrell's
Mhm.
episode, right? He's a classic physique competitor.
Mhm.
He's like, Niall, like I'm disappointed in you for not calling him out for lying. Bro's not only taking that much test. We know that literally every bodybuilder is taking 750 milligrams of test minimum. And I'm just like, I hope this guy didn't just like rip that out of like freaking Dura's podcast
That is crazy.
and just assume all
Probably.
competitors
Probably.
are taking open bodybuilder dosages.
Yeah.
No, bro. Okay, so we know that Martin is taking around like 750. That is surprising for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real about it. Martin, fucking this massive fucking dude, open
Right.
bodybuilder, 4th place,
Right.
taking 750. I get how that's hard to believe. I totally get it.
Mhm.
But I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's fucking a hyper responder. Maybe he just has a really
Mhm.
slow metabolism and just has a good response.
Yeah.
I don't know. But still, he's the lowest open bodybuilder dose I've ever heard. So
Yeah.
if you're going to say all bodybuilders are taking 750 minimum, if you specify that as open bodybuilders,
Yeah.
from my experience, that makes sense.
Right.
I've seen Martin at 750. I've seen Fuad discuss 1100, 1200 to 1300 being
Mhm.
his favorite optimal dose.
Mhm.
I've heard Phil Heath saying 1300 of test alone
Mm.
being his optimal
I
dose.
haven't heard him talking about his PD usage yet.
You
I
haven't?
gotta go look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, he said it on a podcast. There were some people saying he was lying. I'm like, dude, it's 1300
That's
mgs
a-
of test.
What are you expecting to be
What
taken?
are you expecting, bro? He's a genetic freak on
Yes.
1300. I'm like,
I mean, look at the guy.
1300's like, I feel
Yeah.
like that's more than my total gear dose
Right.
already. So I'm like, why do you
Right.
think that's a lie? That's
Yeah.
sounds fucking true as fuck to me. It's crazy.
I feel like nobody's going to believe the test I'm going to run just because, again, I get gyno and I have very
Right.
heavy estrogenic effects. So I don't have to run that much actual test. Year round is like 300, maybe 350.
Yeah, there's going to be
That's it.
people claiming that you're lying.
100%. I know. But my DHT is like my mastering right now is a gram a week. right? So
I don't know why it's hard for some people to like believe that there's like you, John Jewett, Eric Janicki, who else? One of the guys he competed in, the one fucking Jack Eagles.
Yeah.
Jack Eagles.
He's cool. I met him. He's really
Darren
nice.
Farrell. I can literally name top competitors.
Yeah.
John Jewett is massive, bro.
Yeah.
But he titrates up his DHT that high as well. So like I think people forget. Like I earned my pro card on just orals. People say that's amazing. I don't think it is, because orals still do some crazy shit.
For
right?
sure. For sure.
Like just because I wasn't on a test base, I think that was unhealthy, but it still worked, bro.
Yeah.
Like fucking 10 mgs of halotest and at least 50 milligrams of Winstrol.
Yeah.
I look pretty crispy.
Yeah.
You know,
Winstrol's gonna,
especially when I had like no test in my system, probably
Exactly.
like zero estrogen, bro. I was fucking dry as shit. So like you're gonna see that stuff, and I mean, like they're still anabolic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Dean even recommended. He didn't recommend this, but he said theoretically, if you were going to choose a ratio and you weren't dependent on the level of aromatization that your body is genetically prone to, he would say that typically, if you wanted to favor a more anabolic to androgenic ratio, you would titrate up your DHT higher and your test lower, since test is about a 50-50 ratio of anabolic to androgenic. So, but unfortunately, some of us like me can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Like I have to have, when I'm running 600 tests, 500 primo, I got to have 100 tests above my primo.
Yeah.
And that's just how I am. I'm not going to be able to do anything else other than that. But I feel like the only thing that really does is, while some people may say, yeah, test is more anabolic than primo, this should be more anabolic than Mastron. I mean, there's not really that crazy of a difference when you're using dosages of a total of like 1200 mg, you know, that's still a crazy amount compared to people who are taking 150 milligrams of tests for their TRT. You're comparing 150 milligrams of just an androgen in general to 10 times that amount. We're still taking 10 times the amount of a normal person. So you got to remember that just because it's not test exactly, it's still steroid. You're still taking steroids, man. So yeah, you just got to use what works best for you. And why take an AI if you can just balance your ratio?
Amount of time that you're under those substances as well, right?
Like that's also probably the most important factor to your total tissue. Right?
So that's what a lot of kids don't understand. I'm going to take this within a year. I'm going to look like you. Within 3 months, I'm going to look like you. It might take you 6-7 years of drug usage to even get relatively close. To that. So no, I agree completely.
That's what makes me wonder. Like I get fucking surprised when I hear people like, I mean, Eric is a little bit more reasonable, but when I hear people like Eric and Martin talking about their dosage, I'm just like, I'm hoping that they just took this amount, but like for like 6 years, and they're 6 years ahead of me, and then I'll fucking get that thing, because that's fucking nuts.
He plays a role, man. I think you have a very great structure for classic, and I think the more because you, like you said, you've never actually done a proper growth phase.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
only been like a year and a half actually now. No, now it's been about 2 years because my bulk's about to end. So,
so think
but
about.
I don't know how this is going to look, I guess.
Think about how you're going to look like after 2 years of doing that, or twice the amount you're doing that, like 4 years, 5 years. You know what I mean? It'll put it on 10 pounds of muscle year after year. After 5 years, that's 50 pounds of tissue. You're going to look like a completely different person from the starting point till the end. So it's not necessarily the amount. People think, I take more, I'll put more muscle on. At a certain point, your body is only able to put on so much muscle. The rate of muscle you're gaining is going to stop. Like, you're not going to gain more because the gear is higher. So I don't understand why people, like for me, we find a sweet spot where I respond well and I feel well. So there's no, taking more won't do anything more than give me side effects.
Right. That's what Fabode was discussing too, is everyone finds a sweet spot. And as much as people want to believe, like I personally still feel like your size indicates your sweet spot. So we listen to Kurt Havens, listen to Dr. Dean, listen to any of these guys that focus their life on studying PEDs. They discuss that as you gain muscle, it causes upregulation of androgen receptors. Now I know upregulation has a variety of different definitions, such as maybe like I guess you could consider like your response to a substance. If you respond better to that, also kind of an upregulation. So that's where it got confusing to me. But when they explained their definition, it made more sense, where it's like, as you gain more muscle, you gain a higher amount of receptors. Thus, you gain a greater capability to saturate those receptors.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking a gram of gear and you've just started your cycle and you're 18 years old and you don't have a lot of muscle, you have saturated those receptors and more. So where's the rest of that gear going to go to? To the places that are going to cause you some excess side effects, right? And we see this a lot. That's why we're like, oh, these guys take a ton of gear and they look like crap. Well, it's probably because they were actually taking more gear than they should for how much muscle that they have.
Yeah.
But we don't really think about that when we're doing our cycles when we're like 18 years old, 20 years old, or we just haven't had the opportunity to, I guess, go on the internet and listen to hours of podcasts or hours of YouTube videos with this information laid out. So as we grow bigger and bigger and bigger, though, we start having a greater capacity to saturate, which means we have the ability to take even more gear and even more gear.
Sure.
This is what allows us to take more gear. So that's why it's like, that's where the argument comes in. It's not like as you grow bigger and you take more gear, then you should respond better. That's not the case. It's that you can take more gear as you grow bigger and you don't have as much side effects. And this makes sense, right? Like when I first fucking started gear, I think my first injection cycle, you know, after I finally stopped being a dumbass, was like 300 mgs of test. I started at 250 and then I went up to 300. I was fucking watery. I was bloated. I got a ton of acne. Honestly, part of the reason was I think I wasn't quite as apprehensive of managing my estrogen levels with AI, and I wasn't taking blood work as regularly as I am now. But also I did just gain a lot of side effects period from taking that much test. Yeah. Now I take 500 milligrams. Now I take 600 milligrams.
Yeah. No issues.
I have zero of that, which makes me wonder, maybe I could like take a little bit more to saturate, you know, maybe. I don't know. I should push my coach a little bit.
I've never had, I don't know, man. I've never been like that intrigued from gear. I'm like, it's almost like another box that I need to check off. I'm like, okay, how much of this do I need to take to get there? Okay, this much checked off. I'm not thinking, what if? I just have never thought with that mindset. You know what I mean? I think what intrigues me the most is like the performance side of things, like in the gym.
Yeah.
How much stronger am I getting? Am I seeing the indications that this is working? Am I seeing added size, you know, moderate side effects? Because like for me, you know, obviously I've had long hair for a long time. So like I don't want to lose that. So like I'm always thinking, okay, I'm just going to take the minimum effective dose. That's kind of like how I'm approaching it.
Gotcha.
So,
wow. You're special, bro. Better than the rest of us. I think that's what makes you a good coach, though, is you're clearly like pretty analytical about it. Yeah. And that's the best way to go about it, is obviously, as much as some of us hate the science-based lifters, is really, is just driving up performance. Yeah. If it's at the point where it's starting to drive down performance, because one, you're not sleeping because of the compound use, or two, maybe you're just so much of a water bag in your flame, it's hard for you to get proper training volume in.
Right.
I mean, all of these factors, if it's bringing back your training performance, then obviously you're not going to make as much gains. So
exactly.
Focus on the performance first.
If you feel like any of the medications that we spoke about today may benefit you, such as BPC 157, GH secretagogues such as Tesamorelin, IGF1, oxandrolone troche, Semaglutide, then you can obtain these from Trensparent HRT, and the link for that will be in the bio. If you feel like you're experiencing symptoms of low testosterone, such as depression, anxiety, lack of motivation, as well as lack of sex drive, then you can get this checked out as well by getting your blood work done at Transcend, and they will provide you expert medical analysis. Transcend HRT has worked with many professional bodybuilders and pro athletes, such as Thor Bjornsson, Phil Heath, and Jeremy Buendia. And if you feel like this podcast has any relevancy to you, I do believe that this clinic will provide of great benefit to you as well.
How did you first feel when you got your pro card?
I felt,
oh my God, what the fuck?
What happened? Did it break?
There was an explosion. My bicep was a little bit too strong. It was from the bicep curl I was using at your gym.
Oh, right. Thank you for coming out, by the way.
Bro, thank you for creating that sick ass gym, dude. It's epic.
But yeah, when I first got my pro card, it was great. I felt happy initially, but it was underwhelming. Like you expect this big thing to happen. You expect to like get thousands of followers and get attention and this and that to happen, and it didn't happen. But from a perspective of an athlete, like as an athlete, I felt very accomplished.
Yeah.
I was like, now at least, like you said prior, you know, it's not your identity, but in that moment it is. you're like, and I'm a professional bodybuilder. That's what I am. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So he gave me that. And obviously it gives you another tank to tap into. Cause like usually when people go to nationals, they've done multiple nationals. It's like usually towards the last bit of them trying to get the pro card. They're like, if this doesn't happen this time around, I'm going to wrap it up. And they get it. So then it gives you another fuel tank to tap into versus the one that is already tapped into and completely empty now, you know?
Mhm.
So mentally it gave me that extra fuel to like keep pushing as a pro, you know? No, that it felt great, but again, underwhelming. That's basically the gist of it.
Okay. Yeah, mine felt almost like I got to the point where I like just lost all expectation of getting it because I just kept losing. I just kept getting placed fucking terribly. Terribly.
How many
bro.
national shows did you do?
5.
Dang, bro.
5 national shows.
Those are draining
And like
too.
3 of them, 2 of them I got 16th plus place. Not even placed.
How
Not
does
even
that-
placed,
yeah.
dude.
That feels, people don't, I don't know if there's not many athletes out there that compete at a high level, but like whenever you get placed, whenever you don't get your name called or your number called,
Mhm.
you just go into such a freaking depressed state.
Yeah, it's just like there's no point anymore.
Yeah.
Might as
'Cause
well
the
just
effort-
eat. Might as well just eat fucking Chinese buffet before finals. Fuck.
How did you feel when you got it?
When I got my pro card,
Yeah.
I didn't feel anything when I first got it
Really?
because it was like the state of like I don't know if it was denial or
Yeah.
if it was like just like disbelief. It was more like disbelief and shock, I think, because I just
Mhm.
did not expect it to happen. For years, I like wanted it so bad, right?
Yeah.
But I kept getting just punched in the face every national show. So there were like points where I would like dream that I got my pro card and then I wake up
Yeah.
and realize like it wasn't true.
Oh, that
So
sucks.
it's just like this continuous
Yeah.
feeling of just discouragement.
Yeah.
So
Disappointment right from show to show. You know?
yeah. So maybe was it a couple weeks or a month? I don't remember what, but just a short time afterwards did it really kick in, and then I was feeling kind of on top of the world
Yeah,
for quite a
right?
few months. Yeah, it's pretty great.
That's freaking cool. That's pretty cool.
So we've both had some crazy journeys with diet,
Mhm.
I guess. What have you found to work the best for you in terms of food choices,
Mhm.
food timing?
So I'd say 5 to 6 meals a day and pretty high protein, just because protein is hard to digest, right? So it keeps me fuller for longer. Plus, obviously, it's the building block for muscle. So whenever you're especially on, whether that's prep or whether that's a growth phase, you're still pushing higher chemicals than normal.
Mhm.
So you have the capacity to utilize more of that protein. So I'm like, I like the protein. Let's utilize it regardless. This is not something that I would do with my clients specifically, but my protein gets up to like 350, 360.
Mhm.
For a guy my size, that's kind of like high. You know what I mean? Carbs, my carbs during prep get really low. During growth phases, or even currently that we're doing a maintenance phase into the next show, they're pretty much 1-to-1 with the protein. And fats are pretty low. I can tolerate very low fats. I know you talked with Fouad
Nice.
before, and he tolerates fats better, higher fats better than he
Yeah, he
tolerates
likes really high fats.
higher carbs.
His little program with John Meadows.
Mhm.
So cool. I wish I worked with John Meadows.
But like currently, like my fats are like 35.
Wow.
35. Yeah, it's just two beef meals. That's all.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, bro. I don't require that much fats. I don't feel bad on it either.
Do you feel like you blow up when you eat a lot of carbs or no?
I definitely have a very good response. Like if I ate 50 grams of carbs right now, I feel it pretty fast. It also goes away fast, but I get a pretty freaking good pump from it. If that's what you mean. Do you mean like during growth phases, like over an extended amount of time, or like a short response?
So there's this tendency for darker skinned people to tend to feel a little bit more watery on higher carb diets.
Yeah.
But it's just a thing that's a little bit more common, in terms of genetic response for say like jungle Asians and like black people, for example, maybe Arabs.
I'm half white, so it also kind of like.
Are you really?
Yeah, my mom is Greek. My dad is Nigerian.
Oh shit!
So I guess half Mediterranean, because I don't know if Greeks are considered I guess they're considered white, right? Because they have a lighter complexion.
Mhm.
They're darker to a degree, but it's like when you see them, they have straight hair, kind of white Caucasian features. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I guess I might have to take a little bit of that to
Yeah.
process the carbs a little better. I definitely feel more bloated. Like I was eating like 200 grams of potato on my last meal. And for that hour after, my stomach is like extended. Like I feel bloated. And it's only like 30 grams of carbs,
Yeah.
you know? So I go with more like, especially when pushing food or peak week, we go with more carb dense foods like dates, apricots, or
Dates.
freaking fire.
Do you happen to have any experience with insulin?
I have not.
No. Okay.
I've never used insulin. I've wanted to, but I'm already on my weight cap. I don't really need to like push food high. Like you heard 3,300 calories. What am I going to use insulin for?
I know.
You know?
I've always been curious because there's controversial takes on insulin. Of course, some people think it's just amazing. Some people think it's just, it hardly does much. Yeah. Even though people consider it the most anabolic hormone, I think the use of actual insulin is like, if you don't have some fucking diabetic issues or whatever, like you're secreting your own insulin when you're taking carbs.
For sure.
Like most of the time, I mean, you're going to have a little bit of excess going to blood sugar if you're eating a copious amount of carbs, but just how much insulin are you taking that's actually a benefit over your actual natural insulin production? I think it's more so a benefit to insulin resistance in the long term, right? So you're not continuously secreting so much insulin based off of your carbohydrate intake.
Absolutely.
Now you're supplementing it.
So I have clients that are up to like 55, 6,000 calories, right? 5,500, 6,000, some 6,500. That's when I see it being applicable. Where like you're at the final stages of that really hard push for growth, and food is kind of like at the limit. You know for sure that they're not metabolized. They're not producing enough insulin to kind of utilize that food. So basically having like 5 or 10 IU of Lantus in the morning, you know, kind of like increasing that baseline insulin level. I think that's beneficial there. But the way that I hear it being used with like 20 IUs of GH and like 20 IUs, I'm like, that's a lot and you don't need it. Especially like people use it in the morning, pre-workout, post-workout. If you're an open bodybuilder, maybe there's an application there. But if we're talking about like a conservative, healthy approach, I don't think it has much application. And I think people also over-sensualize. They make it sound better than it is.
Right.
You know?
I still don't I don't have enough information and even anecdotal or empirical evidence from my conversations to like make a good conclusion off of this. My legs are the weakest part. And he really thinks I need to develop my quads a lot better because I have really strong adductors. Fucking crap, dude. Adductors. But my quad sweep just isn't that phenomenal. I have these long quads, almost like Wesley. So you just see this shit come out of the knees, but then there's just fucking straight lines.
I think I have pretty good legs. So, from what I've seen on Instagram.
Thanks, bro. Thanks. Good. Well, I mean, I only post the best pictures. So, bro, that picture I took at your gym is literally the best leg picture I've ever taken in my entire life. My legs do not look like that.
I was proud of that picture. No, I was not in the picture. I was like, that's our gym and he looks freaking awesome.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, I don't know what it was. The lighting just made them look way bigger than they actually look, for sure.
That's a sign. You got to move here and you got to start training out our gym. There you go.
But yeah, basically, instead of the 4 IUs, I talked with my coach and we agreed that he would let me utilize IGF-1. I'm using 50 micrograms now. Well, I haven't been. I was actually 25, but I titrated it up finally to 50 micrograms of IGF-1 from Transcend that I'm getting LR3. So, and he states that like, you know, it's LR3, it's not DES. So it's got a long half-life. So I don't need to worry about injecting it before and after my workout. He just states, just inject the 50 micrograms before your workout. I'm hoping I'll see a difference in my legs. I feel like my use of IGF-1 in the past, though, has kind of benefited my leg growth. But, you know, that's the thing is like there's so many variables. Like when you use things like IGF-1 or insulin on only particular days, of course, and sometimes, I mean, without the use of IGF-1 and insulin, you normally tend to have higher carb days on the weaker muscle groups for most of your clients, I'm assuming, right? Right. So you already have that. And then adding in the IGF-1 and insulin is just to supplement the already high carb intake that you have for them. Absolutely. You know, you don't want to add the carbohydrate. The argument's like you don't want to add carbs on top because of the insulin, because that's just what helps I don't cause a lot of bodybuilders to get fat, right?
Yep.
I've felt a tolerance
Mhm.
increase over the course of the last several months. And
Okay.
it's like I don't really feel
Yeah.
the pump anymore,
Yeah.
which makes me really sad.
Just do what everybody else does, bro. Double the dose.
Oh, shit. double the dose and speed up the tumors.
Right?
Fucking sick.
Yeah, that's the risk that I hear about IGF, one
Yeah.
LR3. I was going to ask you if because you get yours through a clinic, if you've ever experimented with Increlex, like just pure IGF1.
No, I've looked into, I've just like read a lot of things about Increlex, but I don't even know where to get it. My clinic
It's
doesn't
difficult.
have.
It's difficult to find it.
HRT doesn't have Increlex.
Yeah.
So.
You gotta go to Turkey or somewhere like, I don't know, wherever they have it over there. Because in Turkey, you can go get the snap tops at the pharmacy of like Test and like Primo and all that kind of stuff. So
I just wanted to, the reason I brought up insulin in the first place is I was talking with Eric, and I guess a lot of the reason that, I hope this doesn't make people angry. I think a lot of the reason that Steve was saying, a lot of reason like some of the Middle East guys get really fat when they're running insulin is because they fucking smash dates. And apparently if you consume dates, it increases, oh man, I hope I'm saying this right. I think he said it increases your chance of like fatty liver. I think a lot of maybe the glucose from dates is stored more in the liver than it is just because of the type of sugar it is. Now, I'm not, don't.
I know dates have a lot of specific benefits. I'm not sure about that. I haven't heard much about that specifically. I implement them because they're very dense in carbs and sugars, especially for peak week, and they're very light. Not light. They don't take as much room in the stomach.
Do you fart a lot when you eat them?
The dates, I fart a lot, period, bro. So I don't know.
Oh, shit.
I just fart all the time. Especially because I eat higher protein, right? Yeah. So like when you're eating 350 plus,
I know, bro.
You just freaking fart all day.
I fucking hate it, bro. Dude, my digestion was like perfect at the beginning of like the bulk, but as it's gone on, for some reason, I thought I would be able to tolerate the protein better and better as you titrate up protein. And I thought it would be the same with just like bulking for a long time. I feel like it shouldn't cause any issues, but I like 250 grams has caused more and more farts. For me now that I'm at the end of the bulk. So it's interesting stuff.
I feel like over time, whenever you're going through a bulk and you're in a surplus, you just start tolerating food, worse and worse as time goes on. Like your body just adapts to it and you have to up the food more and there's more fat accumulation. However, from what I've seen, you look pretty freaking lean still. So I'm surprised.
Wow, that's nice. Thanks, bro.
Well,
Lexi doesn't think so.
Do you feel like you're fluffier?
Well, my girlfriend doesn't think so. So
did she call you fluffy?
She makes jokes about it. It's because she's on prep right now. I get it. She's angry.
She's shredded, bro. She has like a solid 6-pack just walking around.
She's getting cut.
It's freaking cool.
My coach also thinks I'm on the borderline of the composition.
Really?
He's been actually pushing me to do an earlier show.
Okay.
Because he wants me to start prep like now, or at least start our health phase and do prep, because we're going to do a small health phase right now. But I just I wasn't ready to prep yet.
There's a mind flip. There's a mind switch you need, right? Where you're like, you get the itch and you want to do it. So I get exactly what you're saying. Now, I do want to ask you, because you have a lot of eyes on you, right? How do you feel? Because I feel like the previous shows, was your following as big on the previous shows you've done, like nationals? You haven't done the pro show just yet.
All my growth happened right after my pro card.
Okay.
But not because of well, actually, that's a lie. Sorry. I think I grew up to about 200K on Instagram and maybe TikTok.
Okay.
When I got my pro card.
Okay.
And after that, I just continued the process. The growth actually happened because of the type of reels, the workout reels I was posting. After my pro card, I just finally jumped on tests, figured out how to do my cycle properly, honed in my physique a little bit better, and then I stayed shredded year round for about 3 years. And then during that period of time, I posted the TikTok reels and the workout reels on Instagram or swipes about 2 to 3 times per week. And that's what actually got the growth to happen, to where like each platform went to about 1 million. So
do you feel more pressure now getting ready to potentially compete here soon than you felt back then, because you have so many more eyes on you? Or do you feel more driven because of that?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
You haven't thought about it?
No, I don't think I thought about it that deeply, but I also think that it's not really that different for me for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I think It's a shitty answer, but I
Mhm.
think it's about the same for different reasons. Like I think there's different variables. Like me wanting my pro card so bad was what made competing just matter all for me. And I also thought like getting my pro card would help my content and social media like everyone else did,
Right.
which it barely fucking did,
Yeah.
you know. Helps a little bit, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's all about like doing the good TikTok reels and
That's
shit
it.
and
That's
the
it.
good Instagram reels.
Having trouble with that, bro. Like
I know it's annoying, man.
it's a lot, man. It's a
fucking
lot to do.
Yeah. There's like a specific look too. Like when I was younger, my face looked really young, but
Mm.
then I could get my body to look very like on the borderline of natty or unnatty.
Yeah.
This was before people actually like understood who was natty and who wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just got lucky, honestly. It was just a young face with like this sus looking physique and then just helped blow up, you know? So
That's funny. Interesting.
yeah. I think, I mean, I just want to get to the Olympia stage so bad. But I think now that I'm older, I have a little bit more of a mature outlook because when I was a younger, it's like my entire like identity and value was dependent on like me getting this pro card and shit. Whereas now it's like, I'm going to try my best and I'm going to go for it. But I understand that like it might not happen.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things that in my life now have been really shocking, such as like the passing of my best friends, things that I don't expect. There's some other things that I don't know if I'm really allowed to discuss, but kind of makes you realize that just anything in life can happen. So why expect anything? Because expectations tend to be suffering.
Yeah.
So my plan is just to work as hard as possible to support my family, hopefully give back to my parents someday, even though they gave me a fucking hard ass fucking life when I was a kid. And
we're on the same page.
and hopefully, you know, I'll get to Olympia and do well at the same time.
Yeah.
But if I put too many eggs in that basket, I understand it might actually even hurt me more
for sure
than help me. Now that I understand that, like, your body tends to respond to your mental state.
For sure.
And I get, especially during prep, when I was on the additional compounds that were increasing my dopamine and everything.
Yeah.
It just drove my mind to be like, all my happiness depends on me getting this pro card. Right.
Yeah.
So I would put everything in me. It. But the problem is that I think that stressed me out too much. Increase my cortisol. Like I would not sleep at all before show day. I wouldn't be able to even operate properly because of the lack of sleep and the hunger. And I think it would always bite me in the butt. So I'm realizing now it's like I told Lexi, is like the show that you're the least stressed about, the one that you just want to do for fun, that's going to be the best one for sure.
That's it.
So that's how I'm trying to look at it.
That's how I approach every show now this season. And I've had the most fun because the feedback that I got a lot of times was my legs were too big. And from people watching it, they were like, oh.
Yeah, fuck your legs, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you, bro. But feedback I got as well was, you should have won the show. You should have won that show. I'm like, yeah, but I still placed well. I accomplished what I personally set out to do, which was get bigger and get leaner. And I brought a package that I'm proud of. So that was the initial goal. So to me, that's a win. So it made me happy. It made me fulfilled. You know what I mean? When you go to competitions with that mindset, you're going to win eventually. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. Like it happened. The Olympia win or the Olympia qualification happened for me in 2023 without me really, I wanted it, but I wasn't ready for it. When I went to the Olympia, it was just like a realization that, dude, there's a lot of freaking good guys out there. And you have a long way to go. So you might as well just enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where I was once I went to the Olympia. I was like, these guys look massive. They're peeled. They've been doing this for 10 plus years at the Olympia stage. Chill, bro. Like you got some time here. Grow, take your time, go and enjoy the shows whenever you do them. And then whenever you qualify, you have fun with it. Because it's not everything. You know what I mean? So the only person that is going to be the everything for is the actual Mr. Olympia, the Bumstead, the Lunsford. The rest of the guys, if you talk to a lot of the guys that are 5th place, 6th place, 7th place, they have other things they have to focus on to make a living, to focus on family, to do other things. You know, so, and I realized that when I went there and I talked to those guys and I competed next to those guys.
Right.
You know, so it's, if you take it as an experience and you enjoy it and you're grateful for it, you're always going to come out of it with something that you've gained. versus going in and expecting to win everything and coming out losing every time, you know? So
Yeah.
that's kind of like how I take it now.
I think that's why I like that they're raising the prizes.
For sure.
I think that's kind of cool because we
Yeah.
all know that most of us don't make that much money, honestly, for what we do or how, I guess, the achievement technically is, how high of an achievement would be considered in the bodybuilding industry specifically.
Yeah.
But it's also why I like Grego's story, because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I've always been a bit of a failure to my parents. So
I think every bodybuilder is kind of like that. Like when I first started bodybuilding, my dad got on the phone and was like,
yeah.
why are you doing that? I was like, because I enjoy it. He was like, you can't go play soccer or something? I was like, I like this and I'm going to pursue this.
Yeah.
My dad actually has everything he told me to do. I did the opposite and did really well at.
Fire.
You know what I mean? And even the way I make money today, coaching, having a gym.
Sounds like me and my mom.
You know what I mean? But that's the funny thing. It's almost like they will never admit that, dang, you were right. You're doing good. You're living well. I don't freaking care if you have a face tattoo. I'm happy that you are doing well in life.
Yeah.
But it's because a lot of times I feel like because parents don't get to do what their kids are getting to do, they have almost like a jealousy. Does that make sense? Like, at least for my experience.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm succeeding in life, why is it bad that I'm getting tattoos and piercings? If I'm doing well, I'm feeding my family and everything's going well, why is that a bad thing? Why is it bad that I'm taking steroids if I'm monitoring my health and things are going well?
I see what you're saying.
You know?
It's so interesting to think of it as a jealousy too, though, because it's like, it's things that they weren't allowed to do, but I think it's also like, because it was looked down upon too, right? Back then. So now it's just like out of everything, out of their entire reality that we're doing this. Yeah. And of course, their expectation is it's going to be looked down upon.
Right.
But it's not quite the same anymore in today's society. And I understand that that can be hard for, especially as we age and age. I feel like the ability to be open-minded about certain things. I don't know if that's super related to neuroplasticity or not. Yeah. But I mean, just the ability to be really, it gets really difficult. So, which is why I'm going to fucking keep smashing streams until I'm older. But I know that my family too was, they're very particular about what I did in honor to, I guess, not in their words, but like maintain honor in the family and a good image. So the problem though is like every time that I went to do something, my parents thought I wouldn't be good at it. So like I wanted to play tennis or I wanted to be a musician. I ended up playing 7 instruments and sang. And
7 instruments?
Yeah, and they just,
That's
my mom
amazing.
told me that I wouldn't get into Juilliard because I sucked and I just was good enough. And I needed to practice more. So like, don't waste my time on that. And then obviously I wasn't good enough at tennis. So my dad was like, you know, you got to be realistic. Don't put your time in that as well.
That's crazy because like you'll never be good at anything if you don't, like, no one just wakes up and is good at something.
Right.
That's the thing that I find problematic with that.
And I think that's what's so cool about what we can say, right? Is like our parents disapproved of what we were going to do in terms of bodybuilding. But now we got to a point where I think you did as well. Like my dad's telling me that he's proud of me now. And it's the craziest feeling in the entire world, man.
It's same concept. Like he has pictures in his wall in his house of me on stage, right? He's like, that's my son. But what bothers me, man, it's like, I can't just go past what has gone through already. Like I need you to recognize it and admit that you were wrong. I'm that kind of person. Like if you talk down upon me and my decisions all the way to this point, you can't just be with me celebrating when I win. You got to say, hey, I sucked at this. I sucked at being a dad. It was really bad of me to discourage you and shame you for what you wanted to do. And I apologize. Now let's celebrate. I'm happy with that. Because I'm talking about like decisions like marrying my wife, he did not approve of. And my wife has been the only person that believed in me when I was completely broke and worthless. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
That's the only reason why I got a pro card. Because I did not want to. I was like, it's a lot of money. I'm broke. I don't have anything going for me. I don't even think I'm good at anything in life. And she's like, I think this is a talent you have and you need to pursue it. Let's do anything we can to make that happen. Hire a coach, get blood work, wherever needs to be done. You know what I mean? Same thing with the gym. Same thing with my online coaching. She's the person that has put faith in me. But when you hear someone That's like, I'll disown you if you marry this person. You know what I mean? That like puts a thing in your head where you're like, I need to address this. This needs to be addressed first before I can say, I'm happy that you're saying that you're proud of me.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I don't know if your experience with your dad is that severe.
Yeah.
But that's to the degree that mine was. So
Right.
unfortunately, I don't have a relationship with my parents anymore. You know what I mean? So that's the route I took. But yeah, the family that I have now is the people that believe in me and are not necessarily related to me. Like my nephew and my wife, those are really the closest people I have. And we run the gym together, are coaching together. They're both coaches. And I'd say we're pretty freaking successful. Fabode was saying on your podcast that he's like, a lot of coaches charge $300 a month. You know what I mean? I think that's a base price. I think that's a
Did
decent
Fabode say
price.
300?
Yeah, he was like, some guys charge $300, man. I think he was talking about like the average person that's just coaching on the side.
Okay. I actually said in this ad that coaches charge normally $250 to $500.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
That's a pretty reasonable price. But that's what I'm saying. It's like when you have 60, 70 people put their faith in you and pay that money on a monthly basis, I think you're a pretty successful individual in your 20s. Like that's freaking great.
For sure.
So I'm proud of that. You know what I mean? And I don't know, that never, I feel more fulfillment hearing that from the people that I consider my family today that live with me and they're not necessarily like blood related to me than my actual dad and mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
sounds familiar. Not to say anything about, I am mending, or at least I'm in the process of trying to mend my relationship with my family. I don't really want to, it's hard for me to talk about this on the podcast now. It's getting harder and harder because like I felt more and more guilty over time of like just even opening up about it, because I also don't want to continue to hurt like my mom's feelings, for example.
I understand that. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just going through EMDR therapy. I'm trying to address what's within me first and whatever. And I understand if she and I will never see eye to eye, that's fine. It's what it is. It is what it is. But hopefully I can address how I feel about it and change that.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll help in the future in case I want to go see my family again and stuff. So I don't know. It's complicated shit. Anyways.
It is. I'm thinking about therapy myself for that specific situation. Because, you know, as a person, you have your parents in such a high regard, whether they approve of what you're doing or whatever the case might be. For me, I had them in such a high regard. So I still want to like potentially go to therapy to like kind of fix whatever that is. You know what I mean? That because you feel like something is not right whenever you discontinue a relationship with your parents. So I want to fix, like you said, address yourself first, then move on to, you know, whatever else in the future. So that's something that I'm looking into do myself.
Yeah. Back to drugs.
Yes.
Because I really appreciate how one of the aspects about you and your coaching and also your social media is like just how freaking open you are about everything, especially the drug use. Even if people aren't going to believe how well you respond to the gear. At least he's not saying like, oh, I'm like I fucking diet harder and train harder than everybody. Like, you're really open. You're like, yeah, I took a GLP-1 to make it easier. Like fucking straight up about it. So I'm sure the dosages are true too. Like I don't understand if I was in that place why I would. But insulin resistance, do you do anything regarding insulin resistance or like maintaining good insulin sensitivity with not being on insulin? Now, also, I understand that your carb intake, your total calorie intake isn't super high or anything, so it's not crazy to worry about. But just wondering.
So I track metrics a lot, even blood glucose, especially during growth phases, making sure that that's not out of control. Fasted blood glucose, your A1C, taking a look at that periodically. And also metformin. That's something that's great. Injectable carnitine. That's another thing that's great for insulin sensitivity. But that's really it, because again, like you said, it's abnormally low, the amount of calories I have to consume. So insulin is not the issue for me. It's mostly fat accumulation. You know, that can potentially eventually cause insulin resistance. But if you're controlling that to begin with, if you're staying at a leaner composition year round, you should not have any issues with insulin resistance unless they're already pre-existing, you know? So I think also because I dieted, so I got extremely fat as a kid. And then I really dieted really freaking hard a year, like for my first show coming back into bodybuilding after I got fat again.
Do you remember how much weight you had to lose?
Yeah, bro. I was like 280, 275, 280. And I stepped on stage at like 205.
Fuck.
It was like 70 pounds.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was like a 35-week prep.
Wow.
And we went on no carbs for like at 25 weeks out. I remember it was like cauliflower rice, tilapia, and that was it. And I was using cauliflower rice because it resembles rice. So it would give my brain the thought, oh, I'm eating rice and fish. It's fine. You know?
I mean, honestly, cauliflower rice is fire.
It is.
If you don't worry about the farts.
I was going to say, like,
Good
eventually it got bad, man. Because, like, every meal I was doing with cauliflower rice and broccoli, two of the worst things you can freaking consume for farts. So it was a smelly prep. But yeah, I remember I got so hypo from just not consuming carbs around like 12, 13 weeks out, man, that my wife had to like hold me up to go into the grocery store, or like even working was extremely difficult. Like I would get dizzy and cold sweats, hot flashes just from being on low carb. Like I'd eat my tilapia and cauliflower, but that only will last like 10 minutes because your glucose doesn't spike that much from that. It's just protein and fiber.
Right.
So yeah, we actually pulled out the show like at 8 weeks out. And then once I ate some carbs the week after, my body picked up and I started losing weight and looking sharper.
Oh, fuck.
So obviously the suppressing carbs so much did not help. But once we had that little bump from the food, because we pulled out, I was like, okay, I'm going to go enjoy a meal. I had like freaking 8 rolls of sushi and like 5 cookies. It was freaking delicious. I remember that like it was yesterday. When you haven't had freaking carbs in 20 weeks and they touch your tongue for the first time, you get an immediate like high. It's almost like you're on drugs because your body's so happy about it.
Yeah, bro. I know.
I know. So
from experience.
You know what I mean? So after that, my body started responding, got back on prep, and then finished the prep, got overall qualified for my national show. I completely forgot what question that was. I just started talking. So
fuck, I forgot too. Well,
insulin resistance, that's what it was.
Okay, yeah. Is there any so are there any ancillaries or any protocols regarding organ health and blood work that you give to your clients?
Yes, and it all depends on their blood work. So initially when I get blood work, if we have any issues with kidneys or liver, you know, things like citrus bergamot, astragalus, things that will protect kidneys and liver or help with that. Even for cholesterol, most people get fish oil. That's just regular fish oil that you buy at Walmart. But what really helps you is the DHA and EPA that they contain. So getting a higher DHA, EPA concentration fish oil is it's a preventative measure for cholesterol for sure.
Yeah.
Like it helps you a ton. Metformin is one of the few things that help with reducing LDL, increasing HDL.
Ugh.
You know?
You ever watch On the Spectrum? On the Spectrum?
Yeah. I used to watch that show all the time, bro.
After watching it now, Lexi and I can't stop.
I have like favorite characters from that show too. Like the specific individual, like I love that guy.
Like James and Connor are fucking sickest. They're the G's.
But also Tesamorelin, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah,
that just helps with general health.
Yeah,
I see the problem. I see a lot of times is people throw the whole kitchen sink of supplementation to people. Like it's like a list of 25 things.
Is this an attack?
Do you have like 25 things that you take?
I have a lot of supplements.
Do you need them?
Some of them I don't need, but I think I just use to
it's a prophylactic.
Try to optimize more. Yeah.
Okay. Be
a little bit proactive. Like choline and inositol and inositol by itself. Like I don't necessarily need those supplements. Right. But I understand how they can be beneficial, and I like to take some supplements that are also beneficial for brain health, just in case, you know, protective reasons as well.
Absolutely.
So I mean, like, do I need them? No, but like, I mean, I'm like, maybe they'll like work long run. Maybe I'll have a smarter brain when I'm older instead of.
You have to think about because like the individuals I coach are regular people with regular jobs, right?
Yeah.
They barely want to spend money on supplements. So I have to.
Yeah, that's true.
If I have a specific case where people can actually invest in that, yeah, I'll go the extra mile to find things that will help them with cognitive function, memory, brain health, you know, all those things. But in most cases, people are like, what is the bare minimum I can use? Because I'm already paying this much for coaching. I'm already paying this much for the show. I just want to use what I need. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the usual things that I use, the ones I mentioned. But I definitely feel like there's benefit in optimizing health, finding things that, you know, help with cognitive function. I heard that was crazy. You sound hungry.
Maybe I'm not ready for prep yet. Do you ever like recommend glutathione?
So I see benefits with it for sure, like from anecdotally, you know what I mean? Personally, I haven't used it just yet. And that starts to like talk more about mitochondrial health. and stuff like that, like methylene blue and all those other things. Do I think there's a potential benefit from it? Yes, but what is the degree of benefit that you're getting out of it? Like, we haven't seen studies where someone uses glutathione for 20 years and they had a disease and that disease is non-existent anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so do I think it's benefit? Sure. Like, it's a prophylactic thing. You could take it with the potential that it'll help.
Yeah.
But it's not guaranteed.
Right. Absolutely.
So
it is a really good prophylactic though, for sure. So I agree.
Absolutely.
But obviously it's also expensive. Right. So that's the problem. But if you can afford it, like even Neil Yodahill, when I was working with him for a very, very short period of time, gets all his athletes to do 3 to 5 grams of glutathione IV'd once a month.
Okay.
So I took the equivalent in injections, 3 to 5 grams each month. I got Dr. Dean I asked Dr. Dean what his top 3 supplements would be for reducing inflammation and organ health. And glutathione was his number 1, which was cool. Vitamin E was second, and then CoQ10 and NAD were third. CoQ10 or NAD. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a cool idea. But
any basic coach that cares about health should be having all those, not necessarily glutathione, but the rest of them that you just mentioned that Dr. Dean mentioned, those are like some basic pillars of supplementation.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Have you ever had any personal scares, if you don't mind me asking yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very open. You can ask whatever. Yeah, so after I finished my prep for that first show I talked about, I lost 70, 75 pounds. Obviously my relationship with food was not good either. So I'm sure that my blood work was pretty skewed because of that as well. But every blood marker was off, like kidney, liver, T3, T4 was terrible. And it was still like 3 months, 4 months after discontinuing.
So you never supplemented with it?
I did, but it was after stopping it.
Oh, okay.
So usually it takes like a month for it to come back to normal, like after eating normal. But it was non-existent for a very long time. And it's obviously because I abused the T3, T4, and also my body took so much longer to go back to normal after like eating in a deficit freaking 40 weeks in a severe deficit. So that was the main scare, man. When I got to the doctor's office, you know how doctors are. Back then I was not educated either and stuff. You should expect your blood work to be kind of skewed after a severe prep that's been prolonged. And you only took like 5 weeks of recovery after dieting for freaking 40, and taking drugs for 40. So I should have expected it to be bad. But at the same time, I was naive and didn't know much and uneducated. So the doctor was like, dude, I don't even know how you're standing up right now. I'm like, let's cool off here. Am I okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I got on the phone with my coach and he's like, well, obviously this is not going to be back to where it needs to be only in 5 weeks. So it took me a good while, man. Like I just did TRT, like literally like 150 to 200 milligrams of test for like 4 or 5 months, for my blood markers to go back to normal. But kidney, liver enzymes were elevated. Cholesterol was bad, even though I was just back to eating normal for 4 to 5 weeks. You know what I mean? But because my estrogen was so crushed, all my lipids were destroyed as well. So that was the main health scare. I haven't had anything like having to be rushed to the hospital.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I haven't had anything like that. So did you with your oral use whenever you first started?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. My doctor just thought I might have had hemochromatosis. So they wanted to get a whole biopsy and shit, bro. It sucked so bad.
Did you go through that, the biopsy?
I went through all the procedures required prior. And then I think right before the biopsy, after taking off some time and then doing those procedures, they realized that whatever I was doing at the time, which I believe I was taking glutathione and also jumped off all anabolics and PEDs. I can't remember if I started TRT yet or not, but after talking to Dr. D and I realized that jumping back on TRT actually would have benefited my liver enzymes, my liver health. They were just like, oh, wow, I guess you're fine. You don't need a biopsy. And I was just like, okay, shit. Isn't
it crazy that like so many doctors are uneducated about that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I can understand though, like, us bodybuilders are so extreme that, I mean, that's the thing that I think you and I probably really love about bodybuilding is like, it's like the same, it's similar stuff to like what Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman and some of these other scientists will study.
Yeah.
But we like to look at it in a more dangerous and playful manner. I think
For sure.
for the sake of more of competitive,
Yeah.
and maintaining our life reasons rather than actual like diseases that aren't caused by our actions. I don't know. That was not a good way to put it, because I don't know, some people go through things because they take recreational drugs and shit too. But yeah, basically, like, I don't know. It's just fucking. We just do so many extremes.
Absolutely.
That it's just it's always interesting to talk about bodybuilding, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
that's why I love doing it. How do you feel about the Detroit Pro?
In what perspective? Like watching it, the production, or like me competing in it?
You competing in it.
It was straight for it.
The stage was awesome though. Like, I
right?
love, like the lighting, the stage,
The quality.
everything. Yeah,
I got that video back,
so
and I was
sick.
like, "Oh, look like that." It was a wonderful experience. Freaking loved it all. I met Wesley. I met Matt. Super nice people. I just felt like I should have been given a chance to compare with the top two, considering that my feedback was that I was the most conditioned on that stage. You know, and that was from the judges' table. So I feel like I should have had a chance next to them. And another thing that I'm being completely transparent here, so someone gets hurt, feelings hurt, I'm sorry. But my feedback was also like my legs were too big for my upper body. If that's the case, there was someone else in the top three, the top three of the Detroit Pro, that had I feel like a more of a prevalent imbalance than I did. You know what I mean?
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So that's not helping me, because that just makes me, and it turns a lot of competitors away from bodybuilding.
Right.
You know, be realistic. Tell me the actual truth. Why didn't I place where I placed? Whether that was politics, whether that was Instagram followers. I'm not mad at the placing. I'm happy with where I placed. But I want reality, so I don't go back to the drawing board and make a plan that's not going to work.
Well, here's the thing. This is my personal opinion. Is I don't think some of these judges, or even most of these judges, sometimes know why it is you lost. It's fucking weird to like look at someone and be like, "We're going to score you this point," and then they all total up the points, and then they all go through how many 8 judges or however many,
10 or 13,
take out 2 of the ones that are like the most the biggest outliers, and then that's your score. And I think it's hard for people to be like, this is the reason why you lost, right?
True.
So they try to pinpoint the ones that are easiest, and the other part is, now this is just complete speculation on my part, and this might not be true, because I think Mannion has done a great job with the NPC and IFBB now, especially versus how it was like 10 and 20 years ago. I've heard some crazy stories
for sure
from 20 years ago, especially from Armand. But I think maybe just subconsciously too, though, like if you've heard someone's name before, normally your eye just get drawn to them too. So, and everyone in this audience can probably, if they're real with themselves, can speak from experience.
Exactly.
Like, oh yeah, when I go to the Arnold, I was looking for Wesley, and I was looking for fucking Mike and shit.
But I would like that feedback.
Yeah.
Hey, grow your Instagram. Become more relevant. Compete more.
But obviously they don't want it to be about like Instagram and social media and politics, right? They don't.
What if it is?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like that's what I'm saying is like when we go to these stages, we're not saying like, I want Mike to win because he has a bigger following than
it's subconscious.
We're more just like, we like this guy. We like this guy's physique, but we just tend to, right?
Yeah.
We don't, then if we have to like give you the reason, it comes to the point where like, I feel like I, for example, would probably have to start psychoanalyzing myself or doing a breakdown myself. And psychoanalyzing yourself gets really fucking difficult, right?
Yeah.
So in my opinion, and I'll just give you my personal opinion about how it looked up there, because you guys all look fucking insane, right? And I wasn't there in person, so I couldn't really tell you exactly, because I know that makes a difference.
Right.
I do think like the imbalances matter for sure a lot. I do think maybe I'm just trying to be as real with you as possible, and as real as with you as possible. I think that if you had like a wider back,
for sure,
that would definitely put you a big step up. And I know Grego needs to work on his back as well, his back width as well. But he probably, out of the top 3 of you guys, you, Wesley, and Grego, or you Wesley and Grego, Grego had the most balanced physique and had the same, like had conditioning
Comparable.
on a comparable level as you
Yes.
and Wesley. And then you and Wesley were probably the ones that the judges would consider had the greater imbalance. So then I don't know how close y'all's scorecards were. You know what I mean? Someone had to get second, someone had to get third.
Right.
But no, and I can't speak on whether or not that one was politics or not or whatever. But I do feel like back with is very I just feel like those lats are so important in
For sure.
classic. I always have. This is my opinion. My
For sure.
opinion's probably totally wrong. I don't know.
No, it's
But
accurate.
I just feel like when I saw Mike Summerfield getting up there with his massive lats,
yeah.
I was like, honestly, I kind of expected that with how his fucking wingspan is.
Right.
Like accentuating that V taper.
Yeah.
Like I remember when C-Bomb first got his pro card, I remember thinking about when he focused everything on growing his lats to make his physique more proportioned. And then he came back on stage. It blew everybody's mind, bro. People were throwing up comparison photos of his old physique and then his new back and just how insane it looked, both in his front and his back poses.
Right.
Front back relaxed, front back double
bicep. And, relaxed.
It's just like I don't know. I think it just kind of commands. In my personal opinion, which means nothing, I think legs and lats are the two most important muscle groups in classic. And then whatever you can fill in gaps where else. But,
you see, I can agree with that. If someone came back and told me that, sure.
Which judges like don't ever they never go that much into detail.
No,
honestly.
But it's nice to hear that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if they said that, it would have been, because we're professional athletes and we put a lot of work into this. It would give me some encouragement.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, when I looked at the pictures, when we assessed where we're at, the main focus has been back and chest fullness, as well as a little bit of shoulders. I just feel like it's not necessarily that my body doesn't flow well or my legs are overdeveloped. It's just next to those guys, they just have a more impressive body parts than I do, like regarding chest and back, regarding the upper body.
I think that's perfect, bro. I think back and chest would be the perfect places to focus most of your energy on.
That's been the main
like
focus.
That would be fucking insane, bro.
Yeah. So that's what I want to have, the same transformation I had on my legs with my chest and back next time I'm able to take a growth phase. How am I going to do that? It's going to be a little difficult because I'm barely making weight. Like I'm probably 219 for 2 hours. And that's the 2 hours that I check in for weights.
What's your weight cap?
219.
Fuck.
Yeah, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like once I drink water and eat food, like I'm 222 to 223.
Yeah.
I wake up at 221, the lowest I wake up. So I have to like fast to make 219. And then as soon as I make 219, I have my meal right there and I'm eating. By the time I get back to my scale, I'm freaking 222 to 223. So on stage, I'm 222 to 225.
Do you feel like that's affected your physique negatively at any point?
Yeah, man. Because like when I have to suck down that hard, even if my chest and back are full and looking good, by the time I get to 219, they're flat. Your weaker body parts are the first ones to go.
Yeah.
So I come up flat, and then whenever I'm trying to fill out, you only have, say, check-ins were like 3 the day before the show. You don't have more than 24 hours to even fill out. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult to have that balance. So I guess our plan now is like training legs like once a week with minimal volume.
Bro, I would I know this is going to be crazy. This is just a recommendation.
Yeah.
And you're the coach, so you know better than me. But I saw Michaela Acox. Have you ever seen her transformation, bro?
Yeah, she was like
her legs exploded.
Yeah.
And Terrence was telling me about how she like actually took maybe 6 months or even a whole year off of upper
just
body
training legs.
But her upper body
blew up recently.
Her upper body blew up recently. Nice.
Isn't that who you're talking about? Like Terrence, the girl that he was with, correct?
No.
Okay, different lady. I'm sorry.
Completely different.
Okay.
She's a female bodybuilder.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I don't know why I thought.
Yeah, but this female bodybuilder, she had like the smallest legs. It was just incredibly unproportioned. It was insane. And then she took a bunch of time focusing on your legs, doing less upper body, more legs. And then she had a small period of time, whether it was 6 months to a year or whatever, of just completely eliminating upper body from the program and just doing legs. Her upper body maintained and stayed about the same.
Yeah.
Her legs blew the fuck up. Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, if you're at 219, I honestly say just do legs max like even once a month or so.
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, the approach is like, we have literally like 8 working sets. You can't consider calves legs. Like, it's just, I have 3 sets of calves because my quads and hamstrings are so dominant. If I don't do them, I'm black, bro. I'm half black. They're gonna shrink even more. They need some kind of stimulus, you know. But I'm gonna say this: my legs have always been so prone to growing because I didn't start training them until I was into competitive bodybuilding 4 to 5 years, and I was doing classic.
Mm-hmm.
So I started training legs well into my classic physique, competitive as an amateur career. You know, so. Like I biked the other day to the gym. I mentioned that at the gym, it was like an hour of biking. I had to stop because they were pulling so much blood. I was getting like dizzy on the way to the gym.
Well, bro.
You know, so nice. I mean, it's great, but then when it takes away from your upper body, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of like the approach. We have them, like the feedback from my coach was, so you have a leg day here. There's 8 working sets. You can do it if you want. You can skip it if you want. But you'll have chest, back, day off, chest, back, potential leg day off, chest, back, so on and so forth. And
nice.
My upper body days, I've never trained this much volume on the upper body, bro. It's like 7 movements. It's like 2 or 3 sets.
Shit.
Yeah, bro. I'm like at the 5th one, I'm like, oh, am I done? I'm freaking starving. You know?
Yeah.
But we only have 6 weeks from the Tri-City till the Optimum, which is my next show.
Okay,
now we're about like 5 weeks out. So my goal is with this stimulus to keep as much blood flow to the upper body as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Throughout the week. And if that means that we're going to stay fuller for the show, that's the goal.
I've been training for over 15 years now, and I was too lazy to track anything training wise for about the first 10 years because science-based training is for pussies. But I kept hitting plateaus from burnout, fatigue, joint issues, and injuries, and other factors that at the time I didn't really fully understand, realizing not everyone is built to handle the intense and same workload and injury resilience as Tom Platz and Ronnie Coleman, sad face. I wanted to speed run that shit, but the reality is dudes that have always known their body best are the ones that have been lifting for at least a decade. Shit takes a long ass time to figure out. I started tracking all my training on the Notes app on iPhone because I don't know what paper is. Until recently, I started using the RP Hypertrophy app. The RP Hypertrophy app spoon feeds you step-by-step workouts tailored towards whatever your focus is, or you can customize the workout yourself. Well-educated coaches have always cost $250 to $500 or more a month. I'm paying $500. That's like 10 bottles of testosterone. But if you're not competing or you don't have the money to spend, the app will adjust your program for you every week to maximize your long-term growth. It'll base this on your pump, how fatigued you feel, how your joints feel, and more. It takes in everything into account. None of which I took into account in college because the only accounting I did was counting how many dumpies were in my class. Look, there's a titty. If you don't believe in science-based training, you don't got to do no 3 RIR shit. You can just hoist heavy steel and track it because we all know that the people who say that they remember their weights, sets, and reps every week are full of shit. IMO, there's a sort of middle ground where you track your progress and make sure all the variables are right in your food, sleep, gear, progressive overload, and then you go to the gym and slam those heavy PRs until your blood pressure is higher than Miley Cyrus. If you're still unsure, they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you still don't like it and it gives you a bad tan, you can get your money back. That way, when you compete at your next show, your tan doesn't cost you the first place that you so well deserve. So go to the link in the description below, or you go to rpstrength.com/Nile and use code Nile at checkout. That's rpstrength.com/Nile, code Nile at checkout.
I did want to ask you that. What do you think is, for an individual like me, do you think like just being consistent with the content that's coming out is going to be the most beneficial, or like switching something up whenever you're looking at a page? Because I have a mix of like educational, kind of corny, funny, like I did today.
Yeah.
You know,
your educational content's great. And I think that's super awesome. And hopefully, I mean, I know about you guys, but he's a really great coach. And
thank you.
You're extremely level-headed.
Thank you.
And I'm not just saying all of this because I'm in front of you. Like I've told Lexi this too, that
I appreciate
like you
that.
clearly know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And also it's clear that you've been through varying mental states and you have a good level of emotional intelligence. And I told Darren Farrell the same thing too. I thought he was an amazing coach. So I don't know. I just advise anyone to go check out his page and his content. But
Appreciate
in my
that.
personal opinion, it's hard for me to say because everyone has different value to offer. Obviously, find what you have that may offer the best value. And first off, that's the education that you can provide, especially regarding like PEDs and stuff. Everyone's always interested about that.
Yeah.
And then second, I think like can even like talk about training and diet, or
Mhm.
training and diet, and then showing your physique off with training when you're shredded. So that's what I do.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it always works, but if you get to the point where like people like to see your workouts, your exercises,
Mhm.
and then you can put the sets and reps in the caption,
Yeah,
for example, like the stuff I do, I
Mhm.
try to create like workout montages
Yeah.
behind music, but then I'll also just show the exercises I'm doing. And then
Yeah.
if I'm shredded and prepping at the same time, it's a massive bonus. And
Yeah.
it always gets more engagement though.
But
Some
appreciate that.
options.
Thank you.
Before this rude camera interrupted you and turned off, what were you saying before? Do you
I
remember?
have no idea, bro.
Fuck.
My brain just freaking turned off.
God damn
I have no clue.
All right, whatever. Well, we'll jump to the
Yeah, we're
stuff
good.
anyways.
I think we analyzed it enough.
Yeah. Bodybuilding Daniel asks, when did you decide bodybuilding was your goal and go all in? I think you kind of talked about this earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I decided on it. It was just that it was there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I was this kid that was like working this job that was paying $5 an hour. There was a gym right next to the car wash. I went to the gym just because it was something to do, and I ended up falling in love with it. So that's kind of like how that happened. It wasn't like I didn't like watch somebody. I watched Pumping Iron Arnold, but it wasn't like something that inspired me to like fully jump into bodybuilding. It was more the fact that it was there, but I didn't have anything else.
Mm-hmm. How long would you say you've been training for in total?
So I started training at the age of like pretty much when I moved to the US. I was doing like at home like push-ups and abs when I was in Greece. So I'd say
How old was that again? That was like below 14?
Yeah, like I was like 15 when I was there. Like I came here when I was turning from 16 to 17.
Oh, okay.
So like the year from 15 to 16, I was like doing like push-ups and crunches, watching like
That's
YouTube
awesome.
videos. Like I was literally watching like, you know, the 30-minute workouts where you're at home and you'd like
Yeah.
do jumping jacks.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I was doing. That's how I lost my initial weight from being like super fat.
Yeah.
So from seriously as a I wouldn't say bodybuilder, but taking training serious and learning about it,
Mm-hmm.
watching like Mike Israel videos and like
Mhm.
how to actually periodize my training from the age of like 16 to 17. So, and I'm now 28. So is
Okay.
that like freaking 12 years?
Joseph Daniels asks, what's the biggest cycle you've run?
So it was 750 of NPP or DECA. It was one of the two. Test was right up there with it, 750.
Mhm.
And EQ was like 500. I ran Dianabol with that, and it was like 100 milligrams a day. I was getting nosebleeds. We went to a Post Malone concert with my wife.
Epic.
Yeah, but it was terrible. So I bent over to tie my shoe, and I immediately had a massive, and you could feel it. Like the pressure from your head just releases.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. It's blood pressure. And I couldn't go in the concert. My shirt got bloody, so I had to go get buy a new shirt from like Walmart.
Holy shit.
So that was the worst cycle. During that time, I did not get blood work because I knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
But that's the worst and heaviest cycle I've ever ran.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody could believe you're lying, man. That's fucking.
It was
pretty epic.
freaking bad. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like people don't think I'm taking that little, but I'm taking this little because I know it's effective and because I've gone through the bad stuff first.
Yeah, you
like I
already
learned
know
my
that.
lesson.
Yeah.
So
Damn. Holy shit. I feel like 100 mix of Debo would be epic. You just have
it
the
was bad. Bro.
dopest back pumps, right?
I had a
Dope
pump
lower
everywhere.
pumps.
Yeah, bro. It was terrible. You can't even go to bed because your
Oh,
back,
shit.
back was so sore.
Yeah.
You know, it was horrendous.
able
I
to
don't
go-
even know how I tolerated
Can't
it.
take a shit properly.
No, dude. Like you're going like this, then you're sitting back, and you're going back down because, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was terrible. Even sitting in a car, traveling in a car,
Mhm.
awful. I'd literally have to lay down for like 5 minutes, then put it back up for another 5. Just because, again, like you said, back pumps are horrendous, but you really just have a pump everywhere.
Mhm.
Oh, I forgot to say 10 IUs of GH. So I had carpal tunnel on top of that.
Oh my God.
It was
bro.
all like I couldn't
Holy
sleep for nothing,
shit.
bro. I couldn't sleep for nothing.
Oh my God. I cannot.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
That much like water retention and blood pressure, especially when the Debo plus
Horrendous.
10 IUs of GH. That's
Horrendous. And it was actually a guy that turned pro pretty early on. He was an open bodybuilder. That he wasn't coaching me, but he was the guy at the gym that you trusted that
Mhm.
gave you some advice. And like that's where I got my advice from, and that's why. But that shows you, man, some pros don't even know what the heck they're talking about. They're doing these things. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm sure he didn't mean any harm, but at the same time, he probably got advice that and transferred the information to me.
Yeah.
I did it, you know, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I know it's fucking annoying. I talk about this all the time. I'm sure people fucking hate it, but I'm like, that's why you gotta fucking do the little tests yourself
That's it.
because you don't know. You're so different. Like
Mhm.
Bro, think about like us who can't even handle a certain dose of things, and then there's Chase Irons who can handle 5 Gs of
Yeah.
testosterone and literally hardly feel any issues whatsoever, or even experience issues in his blood work.
Right.
Fucking crazy, bro.
Some people just literally metabolize it and spit it out, and it's
Yeah.
But with those guys too, what I notice is they get very low benefits from it as well.
Yeah.
Like for them to get any progress, they have to run like double running.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like we're on the sweet spot. I would say we're the percentage that's getting the most out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you kind of already answered this, I think. Joseph Daniels asked, would you go back and run gear differently if you could?
If I ran it differently, I know that's probably the answer that people don't expect, but if I ran it differently, I probably wouldn't have grown as fast, even though it was very risky. And I also wouldn't have learned as much. You know what I mean? So I would be talking out my ass as a coach saying, hey, don't do this because it's bad, because I've heard people doing it and being bad for them, but I got to experience it. So I'm able to tell them from personal experience, from running experience with myself, and, you know, anecdotally, this doesn't work. So I wouldn't say I would have ran it differently. Would it have been beneficial for me as an athlete? Most likely, but health-wise, I don't feel like there's any residual side effects or long-term negative health effects, because it wasn't chronic. It was like a year or two whenever I did that. And also I gained the experience as a coach, which is what my identity is right now, my profession. So this is what makes my livelihood, right? So
Yeah.
I think it was very good data that I collected from it. So I wouldn't have run it any different.
Right.
I would have done the same thing.
And obviously, like we said earlier, I'm assuming you've done all these like prophylactic measures and other things to make sure that everything's in check now.
Exactly.
Joseph Daniels again asks, how often should someone be looking to compete sorry, I can't read. I don't know how often should someone looking to compete be expecting to do blood work?
I would recommend at least every 3 to 4 months minimum, you know, especially if you're in a competition season or in an active growth phase. I do my blood work even during a actual push phase for chemicals for prep or growth phases, just because you want to see what your body's doing with the drugs you're taking at that time. You don't want to just see it before and after you push the drugs, you know? So sometimes like my growth phases, so like this last one I had, that was 10 months. We were on for probably like a 1.2, 1.3 grams a week for like 30 or 32 weeks. But my blood work looked the same from start to middle to the end. We just stopped because it was 30 weeks. I was like, this is a long time to be exposed on gear.
Yeah.
But nothing was bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been experiencing about the same recently too.
So,
which is why Pitor had me honestly just skip the health phase after we agreed to after my last show, because my blood work was still good.
Yeah. So I think the more often the better. If you have the financial capability, 2 to 3 months, every 2 to 3 months, that's good, you know?
Nice. Is it possible to get to where he is without some massive cycles?
Massive cycles? Yeah. I mean, look at Q and Prodigy, right? He was bigger than I was. He was an Olympian.
I know. His is something controversial though, because so many people don't believe him because he's such a genetic freak.
You know why I believe it?
The biggest genetic freak.
Because of how he looks now.
Yeah, he looks crazy.
You see what I'm saying? Like, for you to look the way he does, he looks better than freaking Ronnie Coleman did. He's smaller, obviously, because he's a shorter guy. But to me,
I get some shit for that.
That's fine. For
but
me, that's my personal opinion.
You're not the only one who said that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying the truth. Like,
no,
that's
for real, bro. Some people think he might be the greatest bodybuilder of all time, honestly. So
he looks freaking like
insane,
there's nothing you can pick and say that doesn't look good. Like this pose, he doesn't beat that guy, or that he beats everyone on every pose. Like, so that's what I'm saying. That's why I believe it, because for you to look that good enhanced, you need to look exceptional natty. Yeah. Which means an Olympian classic physique, that should be attainable.
Oh man, I believe that is I believe that's the case way more often than not. I know though there are those few exceptions that I have to say, such as like Nick Walker, who will just respond to gear insanely.
Yes.
Right. I mean, Nick is just such a crazy exception.
Absolutely.
Though, like I can't think of one person I know personally who's blown up on gear that much.
Yeah, no, it was insane, dude.
Much, I guess.
freaking insane to see that. Like
Yeah.
from his first show, he looked like a 15-year-old kid
Yeah.
that was like not genetically gifted to be a bodybuilder at all.
At all. Yeah.
He looks like I seen him in person. He looked like a freaking tank. He looks like a car.
Do you know how much he was lifting before that show? How long he had been lifting for?
Nick, I have no idea.
Before. I'm so curious how long he had been lifting for
I have
before
no
he turned
idea.
natural, or if he just
But-
jumped on.
I think he literally started doing, because I remember him talking about going straight from his mom's house
Yeah.
to Tampa. Like that was his first ever house that he moved to for Revive, for the sponsor that he has, and the coach that he had back then. So I think he literally went from like high school, like bodybuilding, straight into like growing and doing like bodybuilding actively as his profession back then. He wasn't professional, but like as he took it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I would say, man, he probably started pretty early on. You know, I wouldn't doubt it. But for a guy like him, yeah, absolutely. You definitely need the gear to get to that point.
Yeah.
But for a guy like me, I mean, 219, lean, I think you could, if you have really good genetics, you could probably do that, you know.
How much do you feel like you're comfortable with GH now?
I like it, man. I run 5 IUs a day. And
Okay.
I have seen
That's
that.
pretty standard.
Yeah, I have seen that there's very minimal side effects. Sometimes to check if the GH is real, I'll just run it up to 10 or 15 IU for a day or two just to get carpal tunnel. I'm like, okay, this is good. But at the same time, if it's, I don't know, it could be something else that's in there that's causing the water retention. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think it's beneficial. I think it's overrated for sure. You're not going to put a bunch of muscle on. But the main thing that I see it being beneficial for is the muscle cell hyperplasia, seeing more muscle cells being, regenerated and having.
I think that's why, like, even though maybe it sounds overrated, I think for the long term,
That's exactly. It's an
the
investment.
long term bodybuilders, yeah,
You
it's
know?
probably one of the most important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I think is beneficial. But I don't think any of those people try to give so much power to a specific drug. Trends, freaking king of drugs, 500 anabolic, 500 androgenic ratio compared to like 100 to 100 testosterone. Sure, yes, it has side effects. It's an accumulative response you're having to all the drugs, to your lifestyle, to your food. If everything is checked off and you add 150 milligrams of test to someone's day, right, to someone's like a lifestyle, and they're
Mhm.
already on their meals, training, sleeping optimally, they have decent genetics, not the best, but decent genetics, and you add some TRT, they're going to have massive improvements. So they're trying to give this power to one specific drug, and it's not, it's all together. And I can say that I attested to that myself, because for the Olympia, for my other preps, I thought it was the drugs. So we threw drugs at it. I thought it was, the cardio. So I did a bunch of cardio. No, it was all the things that we collectively did together. Even the small things like supplementation, metformin, injectable carnitine, doing the things that other people don't want to do, that kind of
Yeah.
got them to that point. Even sleep, sometimes give someone all the drugs in the world. If they don't sleep and don't train properly, they're not going to see the progress.
Yeah.
So
Facts. Marap one blow.
you did really well with those names every time you pronounce them.
Marap one blow. There's some crazy names
I
out there, bro.
I know.
We got one that's like
Wow.
so that's that's fire. Most insane cheat meal. He actually said cheat meal, but I'm assuming you don't do any of those. So
I don't do
most
any
insane
meals.
cheat meal.
I've never done one of those. But most insane cheat meal. So after I dieted for like those freaking first 30 weeks and I went to have like my sushi meal, we ordered like 20 rolls of sushi, bro. And people were looking at the platter they brought out because it was so big.
20 rolls.
Yeah, bro. And like we had people, other tables asking us like, what platter? What was that on the menu? I was like, it's not on the menu. I just ordered 20 rolls, and it was massive, bro. I smashed that platter, bro. It was
fire.
Yeah. Like my wife was there. She had like maybe 2 or 3 rolls, maybe 4, say 4 max. So I sat down and ate 16. Now I've done I think I could be a competitive eater if I wanted to, because I've done 25 wings before with a fries. Yeah, bro. I used to eat, when I got up to 275, I used to eat 13 rolls of sushi, like regularly, like 2 or 3 times a week.
2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah, bro. I was being alert.
Are you sure 3,300 calories?
I was,
crazy.
that's how I got so fat.
Oh yeah, I guess that'd be
You
true.
know?
Yeah.
And I was doing wings, I was doing sushi. It was like a rotation of a cheat meal a day. So it was like, where can I up the, because at that point, dude, my happiness came from food. You know what I mean? I
same.
wasn't a pro bodybuilder. I wasn't.
That's my entire life, actually.
You know, that's what I live for. So genuinely, like, yeah, it was like bench eating, but it was, I guess, I don't even know if there was a purpose behind it. It was just like, I was trying to find things that would taste different so I can keep eating, you know?
Yeah.
I remember I would buy the Millennium 5-gallon ice cream bucket,
Uh-huh.
and I'd have like a brownie with half that bucket.
Oh shit!
Half the freaking 5-gallon bucket of ice cream.
Oh shit! That's
It was
gas.
insane, bro.
That sounds gas.
Insane. Like I would wake up and I had to take Nexium for like 5 months because I had heartburn. That was freaking insane. It was terrible. It was terrible.
Ask Lexi. Literally, the first thing I want after every single show is like a bazooki or bazooki.
Yeah. I like those.
Yeah.
BJ's
Ice cream,
has them.
brownie.
Yeah,
cookie,
bro.
all the hot stuff and the cold
Yeah,
stuff.
bro.
I'll eat the whole thing.
Sushi is about to go, bro. Sushi is
5
about
pills
to
of
go.
lactate. Mhm. Memphis Cutshall asks thoughts on the direction classic physique is heading.
I think it's heading in a very good direction because if we're looking at the people that are top right now, like Mike Summerfield, that's a beautiful physique.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like to say it because I'm also a competitor, you know what I mean? But that's small waists, vacuums, flaring quads, big lats, you know, something that I have to work on. I think it's headed to a really good direction. It's difficult to make weight. I want to say for personal reasons, I wish they increased the weight cap, but then we're just going to start becoming open bodybuilders. You know what I mean? So, no, I think it's the future of bodybuilding. Because if you notice, open bodybuilding is cool, but like, who do people get drawn to the most? Who has the most fans? Bumstead, people like Summerfield, people like Urs. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You don't see, there's times that I see open bodybuilders at the shows, bro, and I've never heard of them before. And I look at their Instagram, it's like 1,000 followers and no traction. And they look extremely impressive, but they're just not. You good?
No, I'm struggling here.
Is it hunger or indigestion? What is it?
It's I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, never mind.
No, it's fine. It's just the fact that I've been drinking the carb drink,
Oh,
but you know, we haven't eaten in how many hours?
that's yeah.
So I just
I
need
feel
to
you.
eat something
I feel
soon.
you.
So yeah.
I feel you. But yeah, that was the gist of that, man. I think bodybuilding is the future, or classic is the future.
Okay. Yeah, I like that too. I feel the same way. I'm excited about classic. Oh, bro, what do you think about Pittsburgh Pro? What do you think
I
about
think
the
it's-
turnout?
It's gonna be crazy, man.
Yeah. Who do you think is
Rough.
gonna be top?
Rough is gonna
Yeah, let's go.
win. Easy.
He's my boy, bro.
Easy win for Rough. I'm excited for that Brazilian guy that's coming. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen him. He came from Men's Physique and he's doing classic.
Oh yeah, you're talking about
It's freaking insane.
Kaiki.
Yes, that's Kaiki. That's the name. I seen him. You know, you look at those guys when you're about to compete. You're looking at all those things. I was gonna jump into the Pittsburgh because last time I did it, I got 4th, and I was like, this was a great placing.
Yeah.
I have established the name in that
Yeah,
stage.
it's
so
fucking epic. For
you know,
Pittsburgh, bro. That's
I'm
so
not
cool.
doing it.
I'm
not freaking doing it. So
Fuck.
another one died.
Could you give me the biggest favor in the world? Is there any? Is it the middle camera? Okay, we don't have to worry about it. We'll finish this up soon.
You always
Thank
say
bro.
that?
Thank you, man.
You always say that the biggest favor, the massivest favor.
The massivest favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I hope he doesn't watch the podcast. Terrence and I had a conversation about the pressure
Mhm.
of it, and I understand the pressure. That's why sometimes I don't even want to talk about the shows I'm doing
Yeah,
until I
yeah.
do it. But yeah, he talks about how sometimes he can feel it, like the pressure
Mhm.
and getting to it. But I'm like, hey, bro, we fucking love your physique, and no matter what,
That's it.
all we want to see is we're just excited to get to see you on stage.
Yeah.
We don't fucking care about the placing. We're just here to.
That's it, man.
Because you're just the dopest dude, the most chill guy, and the most like empathetic bro. And yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm a fan, bro.
But-
So like when I see these guys backstage, I'm like fangirling secretly. I might like have like a freaking game face on, but
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, oh, this is that freaking guy. I've seen him with this
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same, bro. Same.
So,
So, Terrence, if you're listening to this, pause. Don't listen to the next few seconds. But, anyways, I think it's going to be first is Terrence, second is going to be Kaiki, and third is Josema. That's what Eric and I discussed is what we think is going to be the top 3.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. I don't know. Be cool. And then I think I don't know. I feel like Anton could come in close after that. maybe fifth.
I don't know, man. I personally feel like with his physique, he looks great for where he's at.
Yeah,
But I think he has a lot of growing to do, man. I think
he does.
a lot of those
for sure.
guys get a pro card,
Still young,
and then you don't realize how much they're lacking muscle density.
right? Like a year is never enough.
You know, so like
Well,
whenever,
most of the time.
right? But like whenever I post my progress pictures, my progress videos, I'm flat first thing in the morning. I'm not pumped up in the gym. It's literally me in front of my backdrop. The same check-ins I send to my coach as I post online. But these kids go to the gym, they get pumped up, they have some carbs, they look juicy, and then they post a picture. You're not going to be with a good lighting, with a pump, without anybody next to you when you do that. So you'd rather just post a picture that you look flat and real in than go on stage and look extremely small, because we see it all the time.
Yeah.
We see guys step on stage and they don't look the same. I don't know if that's the case with him. It's his pro debut, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking he's young. I don't know how big he is next to those guys.
Right.
So that's my only thing there. But on Instagram and YouTube, he looks freaking impressive. He's very young and very talented, obviously, for bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So
I think he's got an amazing shape though, and
Absolutely.
I think, and he came in really conditioned on his last show, so if he can keep that up and Kyle can get him shredded, and he has his shape to go off of, he'll do really well.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't know how well, but it doesn't matter, bro. He's fucking how old?
that's
Like,
what
just turned
he's
21,
young.
maybe. I
That's
think
what
he
I'm
just turned
saying.
21.
It's crazy.
So,
He
yeah.
was 19 when he turned pro, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Crazy. No, I think he's gonna. If it doesn't happen at Pittsburgh, he's gonna be winning some show sometime soon, whether
Yeah.
that's this year or next year, and he's gonna be the future of classic. you know?
Definitely could be.
So
You know, my favorite competitor right now is Nihat. You know Nihat?
no, if I see him, obviously I remember. him.
P-Tour's 22-year-old 212 competitor. He got
Bro,
second at his like pro debut or something.
I've seen him. Is he from Turkey?
I think so.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen him. Freaking enormous,
Fucking
enormous.
enormous, bro.
I was
Like,
like,
how do you get that big at that age?
when I
He's the
heard
biggest guy at that age.
22, I was
easily.
like, I
Biggest
was
dude.
offended. I was mad because I'm like, what the heck are you freaking eating? What are you What is it that you're doing that I'm doing wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I didn't want to be like most people. What are you taking?
What are you taking?
But I definitely went there.
I definitely went
I was
there.
like, he's definitely doing 5 times what I'm doing, bro. Don't worry about it. He's taking 5 grams. I'm not willing to do that. He looks gross.
He looks gross.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I hear that all the time. I don't know if I want to be as big as you. You don't even know what big is, bro. Go to bodybuilding. I'll open
want to be
bodybuilding
as
show.
big as you.
Yeah, I was like, sure, buddy.
ZDY says, glad that you're having him on the pod.
Oh,
2 exclamation
thank you,
marks.
buddy.
John Benjamin 98 asks, exercise to have quad sweeps like yours, or is that all genetic?
It's not genetic, because if you look at my previous showings, they were not the same in 2023. I post all my stuff on Instagram, like you said before, the workouts. So I've started doing that and doing specifically pointers for quads. I was actually thinking about making an ebook.
Did you just like not, were your legs kind of like more underdeveloped in the past, or were they just something you really wanted to grow? Like, what was what's your story behind your legs, I guess?
Initially, they were pretty good and better than my upper body. So I just focused on upper body. And like I said before, I didn't train legs for the first 4 years of competing, like as an amateur. But then I realized that they're falling behind. So I started training really hard. They kind of caught up. When I went to the Olympia, they looked flat. Adductors were kind of small. Quads were kind of like flat. They were still developed for the average competitor, but they were not impressive.
Okay.
So from the Olympia in 2023, which is November, until now, we freaking hammered down on them. We did like two sessions of legs a week, which you don't need crazy amount of stimulus. You just need to train really hard on the sets that you're actually doing. And they just responded really well. So I do believe I have really good genetics to grow my lower half, but at the same time, it's a lot of work, because I remember my wife used to call me diaper butt because my butt was so flat. Like I'd wear jeans and it looked like you could grab the jeans from it was just bad, bro. I looked like I was like, it was bad. So I've done my freaking work. Hip thrust, freaking gluteator. We bought specific machines because we own the gym. So we bought specific machines for specific growth and we hammered down. So it was obviously genetically, yes, I'm gifted to grow on that department, but it was also specific techniques and methods that we approached or deployed. And they're all on my Instagram. So if y'all want to go watch my Instagram videos, I post my workouts every day.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to say the shape of the quads for sure is genetic, but
Yes.
obviously you got to train. So
Yeah.
that's cool to hear though. Like clearly, like you had a good potential for your rate of growth with your legs, but I mean, obviously, it's clear that this changing in training regimen had a lot to do with how they looked when they got on stage, which is really cool. I'm hoping that makes a difference in my legs right now. So
Thank you.
that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, bro, I would do anything to just do anything to have your sweet, bro. There's this point where like I was injecting the IGF-1 like right in the middle of my
So
leg.
You can actually
hoping like there's like some.
So you know what I'm going to be experimenting with for my back and chest, man. This thing is called Mediform. I think it's hyaluronic acid. I don't remember exactly what it is, and I never really experiment with SEOs. But this is a water-based one, and it literally will travel to the insertion point and pull water into that tissue, into that muscle. It's used usually prior to competing, like a week or two prior, but I'm ordering it now so I can actually experiment with it and see how my chest and my back does with introducing that, especially during training, because whenever you train, you're going to pull more water into that muscle regardless. So I want to see if that aesthetically does a difference, because it's supposed to last for like a week or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be experimenting with that to see, because you mentioned you were spot pinning to kind of help your quads.
I just want to see if it did anything.
Right. So I actually want to see if that works. You know what I mean? Like the water-based SEO.
That's very open of you to talk about, honestly, bro, because people that shit on SEO use in general. But
yeah, I'm a coach, right? So if I'm trying to also experiment and find what's most effective for my clients, for the people that I work with.
Yeah.
How do I provide that quality? I have to do it myself, Yeah. I'm not going to do freaking cocaine, but
Yeah. I mean, there is without a doubt like I don't even know how often it's used, but obviously used without used in the industry without discussion. I think people are already trying to get on Andrew Jacked.
Yeah, I don't think Andrew Jack's is freaking. Do you think it's SEO?
I have no clue.
He looks freaking phenomenal, that guy, man.
He does look really great.
I wish I had his body, not just his squat sweeps, his whole body. He's massive.
I wish I had everything. Wish I had his fucking giga face. Pastor Prathew.
Wow.
Pastor Prathew asks, how do you feel about T3 in the off season like Hanny and Chad do?
It depends on where your T3 is on blood work. Like if we're having baseline calories and maintenance calories, and we see that T3 is still low, and we see TSH being high, so your body is telling your body, your brain is telling your body to create more T4, right? That's why we're stimulating TSH, because it works in a negative feedback loop. If that's happening and you're experiencing hypothyroidism, I believe it's beneficial. Or if you're even in the bottom end of the reference range, I think that has a benefit there. But if you are 3.5, 4, on the reference range, and the reference is 4.2, I don't see use for it. So if you're experiencing
hypothyroidism, if you feel like it's fitting, sure. Some people like me though, I feel like I do have some slow, short rate of metabolism. So I feel like I could definitely benefit from it. Same thing I do for me is I always keep T4 in, just to have more opportunity to convert it to T3. So I took that year round. Haven't done T3 year round just because I don't feel like I grow fine, So yeah, that's used for specific cases.
Gotcha. Well, Junior, Ben D6 asks, what's your off-season cycle?
I can actually pull up what I did. I actually had to pull that up before I came. The one thing that's behind it.
You can even share people the text just so they know you're telling it.
Oh yeah, this is my Google Sheets. So you can see all my drug usage. So growth phase, the most I did went with test 550. I did 1200 of VHC. Majority of it was Primo, and I think all of them. All of it was Primo. Yeah, all of it was Primo and practice test.
Nice.
GH stayed same 5 milligrams or 5 IU at the morning. T4 was I think 100 or 125. And that was it, man.
Sounds extremely reasonable. I mean, it's exactly what I would expect. Like your total dosage of gear is above mine by a small margin, but it's like you and I seem to have a very similar calorie intake, and gear intake as well. If I was able to do tests and DHT, I feel like mine would be pretty close, pretty close to that. Yeah.
I ask every guest one last question at the end of every pod, but if you were to disappear
From the world tomorrow, and you have one message you could send to the entire world today, what would that message be?
It would be pursue what you love and what makes you happy, so you don't have any regrets by the end of your life. I know that's a lot of people say that, but like I found true happiness when I stopped caring about people, not in the way of me caring about them like empathetically, but not caring about what they have to say about me. So when I started caring about my happiness, and that's why the face tattoos and all the stuff that I have is going on.
Yeah.
Because it's what makes me happy and I enjoy seeing in the mirror every day. Once I stopped caring about that, I found true happiness, and the people that really cared about me showed it in life. You know what I mean? So I'd say pursue life and your passion the best you can, and find happiness and keep the happiness. So
Thank you, bro. That was awesome.
thank you, bro.
Then where can everybody find you?
On Instagram, _Blackbeard_Rambo. Also, we own a gym in Louisville, Kentucky. So Fabode Fitness, Fabode. It's hard to spell, so that's why I spelled it for you. So if you guys are visiting, feel free to come by and say hi. I'm usually there, so you can find me in person there, and on social media on my Instagram.
So, yeah, if you guys ever run into him, tell him that you listen to podcasts. There. Yeah, I think I just want to thank you guys for being here and always listening to podcasts and supporting. I did the comments that we have to really bring each other up and that we're used to support each other has been, in a weird way, honestly, very monumental almost. And I think helping us realize just how fun of an industry this is to be in. So I just want to thank you guys for keeping that positive energy and supporting each other. And I think this is what is going to help us become better and better. So anyways, love you guys. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.